the soul, remember the Supreme Source, Paramatma Shiva, who is the Father of all souls, resides the Supreme Abode, Paramdham, Nirakar, the purifier, the guide, the liberator, the bestower of happiness and the reward of sorrow, the ocean of knowledge, the ocean of love, the ocean of power, Almighty, Shri Paramatma is the Father of souls. The light, the soul, the conscious light, I the soul, remember the supreme conscious being, Paramatma, who bestows on me and everyone the love, the purity, all virtues and powers. Let us empower ourselves by connecting with the Supreme Source so that we all can become embodiment of all divine virtue, Devatma. In our temples, we become living idols, receiving power and purity from God the Supreme. Let us all become living idols in the temples, so that those who come in the temple experience that love, peace, and purity that we receive from the Supreme Source. Let us radiate that love and peace and purity to the entire world. From this place, we have got together. Let us send this light and mind to the whole world, to bring peace. Let us be Maryada Purushottam, like the deities we worship. Let us become all virtuous, Sarvagun Sampanna, and Sampurna Nirvikari, completely viceless, and become embodiment of all divinity. Let us share these qualities and powers which we receive from the Supreme Source. Share, share with everyone wherever we meet, whoever comes to a temple. I am a loveful, peaceful, pure, a knowledgeful, and powerful soul. Let us become embodiment of these qualities, ours. Let us become a role model of the divine beings, increasing our level of purity to face the problems, the situations, the obstacles, and the upheaval that are to come. Let us increase our resilient power and spirituality and share with others. This is the beauty of our religion, our Sanskriti, our culture, and our sanskar. Thank you. Om Shanti. Om. Om. Keep the light lead all the time in our awareness that we are all souls, we are spiritual beings, and extend this awareness to the whole world. Thank you. Om Shanti.
sorry about little delay. Suprabhatam. Everybody should have a copy of our magazine Mandirvani. If not, then please collect it from Himanshubai Desai. Himanshubai, if you are here, please raise your hand, or maybe he's standing outside with the copies. So please collect the Mandirvani, which is the publication of Hindu Mandir Executives Conference and a Hindu Mandir Priest Conference. Dhanyavad.
ॐ वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा.
Namaste. We will be starting with our panels now. A quick reminder before I introduce our moderator for this session. We will be timing each session. They should be about 7 minutes with a 2-minute question period, and we'll be holding up signs like this, showing you how much time is remaining in your session. We're going to introduce the moderator, Sahana Singh. She's an author and a commentator based in Texas, USA. She's an environmental engineer by qualification who writes on a variety of issues, including Indian history, water management, and education. Her first book, The Educational Heritage of Ancient India, How an Ecosystem of Learning was Laid to Waste, has been appreciated for awakening Indians to the role played in India in spreading knowledge around the world. Her second book, titled Revisiting the Educational Heritage of India, published by Vista, has just been released in September 2021. It explores in greater depth the subject of India's unique ecosystem of learning, which created a knowledge-centered society and laid the formation of a major academic discipline, which is being pursued today. And she's an alumnus of the Delhi Technological University. Sahana made a career shift to write after moving to Singapore. She worked as an editor of Asian Water magazine for many years. She's won several awards for journalism, including the Developing Asia Journalism Award in 2008. A short animation video made by her on the world's water crisis won a top prize at the TU Delft Urban Water Movie Contest, awarded by the Delft University of Technology in Netherlands in 2012. Her articles have been published in Reader's Digest, Washington Post, Discovery Channel Asia, Asian Water Magazine, Swarajya, India Facts, and many other publications. She's moderated panel discussions on water management at several international conferences. Sahana is on the board of many nonprofit organizations related to history, heritage, education, restoration of samskar, and the cause of helping Hindu refugees. She's passionate about traveling and connecting the dots across different societies, civilizations, and disciplines. Let's welcome her to the stage.
Namaskar and welcome to everybody today. And this is the second session of HMEC and Hindu Mandir Peace Conference. This is a very special conference for me because in most of the Hindu themed conferences that I go to, the women are wearing saris, but the men will be wearing trousers and shirts. I rarely see men in traditional clothes. So this is a very special event for me. I'm seeing so many men wearing dhotis and traditional clothes. But of course, this is the Hindu Mandir conference, so it is only to be expected. I hope that more people will learn from you all that even men have to maintain traditions. It's not just on the women who wake up early, when they have to wear sari, they take more time, they take the trouble to represent tradition. I think it needs a lot of effort. When I go nowadays, even when I travel by air, I wear a sari just to make this statement that I'm a Hindu and I wear my bindi and I travel like this. But men don't do it. I'm not yet seeing men wearing dhotis and traveling by air. Exceptions would be the pandits, the pujaris. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Today's topic will be temple, mandir and dharma education. Now, I have written two books on India's educational heritage, and one of the things that really simply amazed me when I was doing my research was that temples were not just centers places where people went to worship a deity. They were also places where people went to study and learn. That was just so amazing. We had temple universities. So when I was plotting a map of India showing all the ancient universities, so many of them were temple universities. So in the southern part of India, there were so many Agraharas. In the northernmost part, in the Sharda Peeth University in Kashmir, it was a revelation to me that not only was it a temple university, but it had very rare manuscripts that scholars from all over India would reference. So for example, when Ramanujacharya, the Vishishtadvaita founder, when he wanted to write his book, he went all the way to Kashmir to Sharda Peeth University, which was Sharda Temple as well as a temple university. He went there to get the original manuscripts so that he could write his commentary on the Brahma Sutras. So he went there and he got the manuscripts from there. So imagine in those days traveling all the way from Tamil Nadu to Kashmir because that temple has all the manuscripts that he needs. And this is repeated throughout. When I was doing my research, I found that the pundits, the scholars were traveling to whichever part of India that they knew the best, that they will get the best knowledge from. So the distance was not a barrier. So we will find that Nalanda professors are in Gujarat, setting up the university in Gujarat. Then we'll find people from the south going to the north, also going to China, because remember, China's education system was also set up by India. A lot of scholars went from India to China, even from South India, and translated so many books, which were later the basis for whatever the Chinese studied and built upon. So this was a very interesting revelation to me. So I hope some of you will get to read my book and come to know about India's great educational heritage, and especially the role that temples played in spreading knowledge. It was not just dharma education, as some people think, that only dharma and knowledge of the self-realization, only that was being taught in temples. No, even mathematics was being taught, grammar was being taught. So in Sharda Peeth in Kashmir, they even had grammar texts. And so from Gujarat, Hemachandra, one of his scholars who wrote a very important book on grammar, he went to Sharda Peeth to get the books on grammar. So everything, all subjects were being taught. And even right down to the British period, in the 18th century, you will find in the writings of the British that they're very surprised that these people are so poor, they hardly have enough to eat, but still they go to the nearest temple to study. So there are pathshalas as well as there are temples. If there is no space for a pathshala, then the temples are being used as schools, which was quite surprising even to the British. So you will find many 18th century gazettes talking about the respect given to teachers. How they are in every puja which is performed, a part of the prasad is sent to the teacher of the village. So this is the culture, and I hope that we will build upon this and make temples centers of learning again. So now I'll quickly introduce the panelists, and then one by one the panelists will speak and then probably find a place there or maybe in the audience, because I don't want this screen to be blocked. On stage over there? On the side.
And then the question and answer session will be there.
At the end of it, right, okay. So the first speaker is Deepa Karthik ji. She's an active member. She serves as the chair of policy for the South Brunswick Board of Education and has held multiple volunteer positions in the past. Deepa ji has been contributing to initiatives that spread awareness about the Hindu way of life. Deepa ji currently serves as the director of special projects with Hindu Pact. She has an MBA and her day job is a program manager with a leading pharmaceutical company. We all have day jobs and then we do dharma at the remaining time, I guess. Deepa is currently engaged in studying Hindu iconography and Sanskrit. So welcome to the stage, Deepa. The steps are on that side. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you will all remember who is who. The second speaker, I think you have already seen her a couple of times on the stage. Srimati Sunita Agarwal is president of Dayton Hindu Temple Board of Directors. Since '96, Sunita ji has lived in Dayton, Ohio, practiced medicine and volunteered at the temple. So she's Dr. Sunita Agarwal. She's originally from Indore, MP, and is a strong believer of women empowerment. I already saw that in the morning when we were arranging the chairs. She didn't wait for any man to come and help. She started moving the chairs herself. So already, you can see she's not bothered that she is one of the speakers, and so she should wait and wait for others to do the work. So I'm already very inspired by her. Being a Krishna Bhakt, her passion is Manav Seva, is Madhav Seva. The next speaker is Sri Madina Gopala Dasa. Is he here? Yes. He has served over the years as the Education and Temple Management Director at ISKCON of New Jersey. He is a zonal supervisor of 5 ISKCON temples and currently serves as a North American co-director of ISKCON Communications. Thank you. And then we have Kumar Ravi Keradia. Do we have him here? The youngest member of this conference, I guess. He is just 16 years old and is a junior at Carmel High School. You would have to take a chair from here. Yes, a special round of applause for the youth. So he volunteers at the Hindu Temple of Central Indiana frequently and has been attending Balagokulam classes since he was 5 years old. He's also involved with Seva International and helps with the annual Seva Diwali food drive. Thank you for coming. And the last speaker is Sri Kalyan Vishwanathan. Oh, Kalyanji, please come, yeah. He is currently serving as the president of Hindu University of America from April 2019 and is guiding its renewal and revitalization. He draws inspiration from his guru, Pujya Swami Dayanand Saraswati of Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, and he was associated with his work for over 20 years. Yes, along with Ravi Keradia, there is Kumari Uma from Karambe. She's also there. Two young people, sorry, no excuse me. So I said, I told you already, he is from the HMEC in the University of America. He draws inspiration from his guru Pujya Swami Dayanand Saraswati of Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, and he was associated with his work for over 20 years. Prior to that, Kalyanji was a global practice head for one of India's largest IT services company with a 20+ year track record. He holds a master's degree in computer science and bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics engineering from his family. He is also a student at Hindu University of America working on his doctoral program in Hindu studies. That's actually the culture of India, where we are students at the same time as we are teaching. So very good to know that. So our first speaker can start. I'm just reading out what she's written. So Uma Karambil is a senior at Garden High School and she has been attending Balagokulam for the last 12 years. 3 cheers to Balagokulam because it is giving us young people like this. So she's a youth coordinator at the Mandir and she's a classically trained, she's trained in classical dance, Bharatanatyam for 11 years and she has a Arangetram next year. And she's also learning karate in the Shori Kai form as a black with red stripe. That's amazing. So she's a dancer who can deliver killing blows. Very nice. So now we can start.
I think we're experiencing some technical difficulties. Just wait for a few minutes and see if we can resolve it. We have a presentation and all the panelists have sent. So just bear with us for a few seconds. If it's resolved, we'll see the presentation here. Otherwise, I'll just speak off my papers.
ये फोन पे करोगे और ये भी डिस्कनेक्ट
Okay. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Thank you so much for inviting me to this conference. I'm so grateful to be in the company of such erudite presenters as well as conveners. I want to thank the conveners of HMEC for inviting me here. I'm going to be speaking on the topic approaching the educational system. And before I proceed, I have to say that I'm here as a member of the community, and I speak, as a citizen of this country. I'm not here to speak on behalf of the South Brunswick School Board, of which I am a member. So I just wanted to make sure that I say that. Okay, so I wish we could have seen the presentation. It's a very simple presentation. I'm here to speak about what is happening currently in our educational system, in schools and in universities. So I had a couple of points that I had put in. The first one was, we have poor level of Hindu engagement on dharmic matters in the educational system. I'm going to elaborate on some of the points. I know I have only 7 minutes, so I'll make it as quick as possible. I can speak for a long time on this topic, but I'll keep it short. The second thing is we are unable to identify signs of biases in our reference materials. We are unable to sort of identify the larger implications of some of the texts that we have. I had some visuals of some of the textbooks, etc., and the materials that are referenced in the textbooks that will sort of give a more powerful sort of message, but hopefully it will come up soon. The next thing is that we are unwilling to report educational material bias towards us in unfair ways that leads to unfair inferences and that ultimately results in stigmatizing our students and our community. There's also great reluctance, on the part of the community, the Hindu community, the parent community, and community at large, to sort of officially report these biases, which results in harassment, intimidation, or bullying. We also have
we also suffer sort of with a lack of attention to these issues, because what happens is as we go by in life, we are like, let this be, it's not a big deal. My child learns dharma at home, we do all the puja parts and everything, so it's okay. But the long-term adverse impacts of this will not be felt when our children are in elementary school or middle school or high school. But as they progress through this educational system and get out and go to universities, etc., that's when we will see the effects of this stigmatization that has taken place slowly over the number of years that they have been in the system. So what we can see, the result is that many young Hindus want to disassociate from their civilizational roots, and that, in my mind, is extremely harmful. I had on the next slide what biases look like. So on my next slide, I'll show you here. Hopefully, I can share the presentation with this esteemed group. Basically, this is a printout of the textbook, the sixth grade world history textbook, and I'm going to just read out some highlights from there. So the first sentence in the world history textbook says, Indian society divides. Okay, so that is the first heading. Then there is another column that says Brahmanism. And what is Brahmanism? Though we don't identify as Hindus, we don't know what that word exactly means. There is no such sect or qualification called Brahmanism. There is a sort of a very negative and denigrating description of Brahmanism as well. Then there are some other headings that says caste system, okay, and it says caste rules. So this is just a very, I would say, a watered down example of what sixth grade, which means, just imagine, these kids are either 10 or 11 years old. I have a seventh grader, and she has been through some of this material herself. There's also a danger of how this particular material is then sort of explained in the classrooms, etc. So this is how bias looks, right? If you look at any of the other materials for other religions like Judaism or Christianity or Islam, these sort of descriptions do not exist in the textbooks. But in our text, as it relates to Hinduism, this is the kind of description that relates. Now, what are some of the other examples of bias that I'm going to show you, which I had it on this slide, which says, let's assume like you have a sixth grader or fifth grader of your friend or yourself, your own child. There might be a statement like, why does your God have a monkey face, right? Why does your God have an elephant head? Why do you pray to so many gods? Do you believe in caste discrimination? Your beliefs are heretical to mine. Why does your God have so many hands? Why do your gods matter? So these are actual statements of of people, of children who have made these statements. Now what happens is when our kids come home and tell us, somebody asked me this question, we sort of either brushing aside or say, oh, they don't understand because they don't know what this means. We are either unable to explain or identify that these are actually statements that lead to harassment and intimidation of our communities. So, I am sort of painting a picture of what's happening currently at a very grassroots and at a day-to-day practical level. So, what can we really do to sort of help our students and help the community? So firstly, I think Hindu parents need to be visibly Hindu when they interact with our education system. As Sahana ji rightly pointed out, there are many instances, and I didn't bring pictures of myself here, but when I do attend in public life, I dress up very much like this. So what does this mean? This is a subtle message that we are proud of our identity, that we are not ashamed of it, and that we are very happy to carry our Hindu selves outside, privately as well as publicly. Hindu parents therefore need to engage with these systems in a very Hindu way, which means we need to come across visibly. We need to engage in meaningful dialogue. So students and parents both should feel empowered to speak with teachers, supervisors, professors of social studies and humanities. It is a sort of in my experience, educational systems are open to dialogue, but it is we who are not engaging with it. So, that's something that we really need to sort of work on. I also would like to implore the active participation of local Hindu groups. These are local student boards, local town councils, as well as local school public libraries. Because this sort of engagement builds a partnership, it builds a relationship of trust and understanding, and it also helps to dispel some of the myths and misconceptions that that exist about Hinduism. For example, Hinduism is all about the caste system. So mandirs are actually our nerve centers. They are the nerve centers of our community. At this point in time, everybody, every Hindu that I know, at some point has visited a mandir. And if sorry, am I out of time? I'll just take one more. So Hindu temples really need to become the nerve center of social and civic engagement in our community. I'll just speak quickly about how can we work for results. In order to work for results, please actively support Hindu parents to volunteer and to become part of public life in our community. Please empower yourself and others to report biases because we currently lack data in terms of official statistics on what bias looks like in the community. We need to extend access to medical information. We have the University of Canada. We look to partnering as citizens, as parents, with these communities, with these universities, so that we can bring reliable sources of information to our local school boards, our town councils, our public libraries, etc. Encourage our children to form Hindu clubs or Hindu associations in the school. Lots of other communities are doing that. Their parents are standing behind their children. They're not stigmatizing their kids. They're encouraging their kids to participate in Hindu clubs. We should, lastly, we have to engage with the education system. It has to be a consistent approach. It has to be a concerted effort. We need to engage with administrators, trustees, boards on all levels. So the last thing that I want to take away from this particular talk is that representation is very valuable. It's more valuable than we realize. We have to be vocal. Statistics and data matter. Therefore, we have to make sure that we report any biases. We need to stay organized. We need to stay invested, and we need to stay engaged. Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepati. You set the stage for me to speak further on the education programs that Satan Hindu Temple is wanting to share with all of you here today. The topic is the Sanatan Dharma education activities through the Hindu Temple of Data. And this is a very practical approach where we have designated one board member, who is Dr. Ravi Khanna, who will be in charge of the Sanatan Dharma education activities, not only in the temple but outside of temple, in school, colleges, churches, and other facilities. So once our board members started, another board member joined to continue with the program. And I want to share now some of the highlights of that program. That the goal is that we reach out to people like comparative studies of religions, and our priests and board members prepared for the topic and presented it at the high school level, where the question answers were very interesting.
For example, the Punarjanam, reincarnation, and like Deepaji mentioned, that our gods are questioned, monkey face, elephant head. So there was this opportunity to explain that why they are the way they are. And now we also have the Hindu chaplain program, like I spoke about it yesterday. And the priests are getting equipped and prepared with slideshow. And one of our priests went to a Unitarian church where he was invited. Um, we have been to colleges to do talks and presentations. We also invite schools for field trip. For example, at the Makar Satrurday, we had a high school group of 50 students with their teacher come for a field trip, and so they not only got to see the temple but also learn things, practices, and ask questions. We are also promoting education through yoga and meditation weekly sessions. What our experience has shown that the those who are practicing, they are also very good audience to learn about Sanatana Dharma at that time. It's like the stage is ready, and these are motivated people. So, for example, there are many yoga instructors and there are meditation instructors, and they can be valuable Sanatana Dharma teachers. So, during that time, the one or two lines which they happen to say can be very impactful. We have had Swamiji's give discourses through Ashvavidya Gurukulam, Chinmaya Mission, Jain Samaj. We had Stutiji, Brahmachari Suryaji, Swami Muktananda, and so on. We have a weekly Bhagavad Gita class, which is also very popular. And there is a new program which is recently started, which is called NGHS. What does that stand for? Next Generation Hindu Seekers. So this is specially for youth and teenagers who are beginning to start spiritual journey, as many of us have shared our opinions that how do we engage youth? This is a challenge for many of us to engage youth in a practical way. There is Bhagavad Gita and there are this uh, Vedanta and Upanishad and everything. And they are the good basis, they are the theoretical basis. So the practical application, when youth is learning and they are practicing, that is the basis of promoting the next generation Hindu Seekers group, so that what they have practiced in everyday life, what they have learned from their parents, and what they are practicing, so other teenagers and other youth will learn, like simply speaking, Madhav Seva is Manav Seva. So, you may do chanting and it is a good form of meditation. We do not expect that, our youth will sit down but probably if they were volunteers and they were doing cleaning and other jobs in the temple, that is their way of Manav Seva. So, going along with some other ideas is our monthly Mandir Money, and it is electronic now, it's an email, and we are including an education section to that Mandir Money. Our involvement in HMEC and HMPC is another extension of our educational activity. I come here, I learn so much, and we also taken part in the Darshana exhibition, which was provided to us by the Hindu Swayam Sevak and we are also participants in the interfaith group. So the conclusion here is that there are many ways of promoting Sanatana Dharma education, not only within the temple facility, but outside, as we get more known through traditional practices of, say, Raksha Bandhan and Guru Vandana. And I just want to add a last thing that we do Raksha Bandhan for like knot of protection for the local police chiefs, police officers, and firefighters, where, like Sanaji and others spoke about the Hindu system or Hindu way of outfits, attire, and the bindi. So we actually put the tika on these firefighters and make them experience that what it is like. So next time, when we are putting a bindi, we are not like hesitant about it. Thank you so much.
Is it on? All right, you can start the timer now. Hare Krishna, my name is Madan Gopal Das. I'm from ISKCON. I'm the North American Director for Communications, and I live right here in New Jersey, in Parsippany. We're actually building a brand new temple, the largest ISKCON temple in North America, coming up in just a few months. So please visit us next time when you're around. We'll be opening in just another few months. So as you can see, there's nothing to see there, but I had a brochure link on there. Very simple brochure link. This is for interfaith. So today my topic is on interfaith. What is interfaith and how our priests in temples and our temples themselves can engage and why we should engage and so on. So we have compiled for many years a best practices brochure on how to engage in interfaith from the Hindu perspective. So you can go to tinyurl.com/interfaith brochure. It's very easy to remember, tinyurl.com. Interfaith brochure in one word. You can look it up, make a note of it. I have a QR code up there, but if you need the code, you can see me later, okay? All right, so as long as there have been varieties of faith, there has been interfaith dialogue. Interfaith is all about building bridges and making an honest attempt to understand the people of other faiths while also sharing with them what our own faith is about, what makes us tick, why we do what we do. As Swamiji Svatmananda yesterday said, we need to be, as Hindus, we need to be proactive and united. We need to start somewhere, and we need a place at the table at all the local events. This is important. Now, I'll give you an example. In the town of Parsippany, where I live, we have about a population of 35,000 people. 13,000 of us are Indians. Majority, 90% plus, are Hindus. Okay, and yet the school district has holidays for Muslim holidays and not a single holiday for Diwali or Hindu Utsav. Why is that? Even some of our people, our Hindus, went to approach the school district and they said, can we apply for a holiday for Hindu? They laughed at us. They said, sure, you may have the population, but are you engaged? They actually openly challenged us. You don't show up at the polls. We don't see you at public engagements. We don't even see it at interfaith events. Whereas the Muslims are just a few, but they're doing so much at public events. They're showing up at interfaith, every single one. What's going on? So we have taken that as a challenge upon ourselves, ISKCON being one of the prominent Hindu organizations in North America. So the past 2 years, I've personally put together and spearheaded Rath Yatra Festival in Parsippany. We've had thousands now coming, just in 2 years. And not just that, we take to the streets and it makes the people shake. And not just ISKCON devotees, 9 other Hindu temples work together in unity to come on the streets. This shows our presence. It's a very important aspect of interfaith to show that we matter. This is how you do it. Why is unity so important? We talk about unity here, but then when you go back to our temples, we don't talk to each other. Why? If you have another Hindu temple, let's be brothers. Let's really close these gaps. Ultimately, we are all Sanatana Dharma followers. So this is an important part of interfaith, right? So what does interfaith dialogue do for us? It promotes understanding and tolerance. We also learn to tolerate others, and you teach them to tolerate. You learn about similarities and differences. You focus on the common ground. You reduce stereotypes, misconceptions, prejudices. People think if you're Hindu, you have horns on your head. No, here, take a look close. We don't have horns on our head. When you get closer to each other, things, see each other as persons. So you promote peace and harmony, because of communications, you have peaceful coexistence and so on. It enhances personal growth. We understand that there's something spiritual in somebody else's tradition. Oh, I didn't see about God that way. It's so wonderful that God is so great from that angle. And that increases our appreciation for God, because there is ultimately only one God. Another aspect is that it facilitates collaboration for the common good, just like we did at Rath Yatra together. Only when we come together and plan things can we get to know each other better. And I personally think very important is it increases our exposure for local political engagement. That's very, very important. We've been coming to HMEC for 16 years, all of us, right? And we keep talking about unity and political exposure, but we haven't made that much, headway. So let's take interfaith as an opportunity to do that. So what are some of the challenges to interfaith as Hindus? Not enough time to prioritize interfaith work. This whole thing of not enough time, it just means we don't take it seriously enough. Nobody has time. In Hindi, it's a saying, time hota nahi, nikalna padta hai. You have to make time for something that's important. See? And why is that we lower the priority? Because we don't recognize the long-term value and the bigger picture. Whereas other smaller groups have done that, and they're successful in getting their job done. This is a wake-up call when we applied for a holiday for Diwali, and they said, forget it. And then there's lack of trained and experienced interfaith leaders and role models. In particular, our priests have to be engaged in this process. But before we can engage the priests, we have to understand what it's about. And there's not enough communication and interpersonal skills that need to be developed among our priests and our temple representatives. So how do we get started? Get trained on interfaith. There's a lot of resources out there. And there are communications groups in organizations like ISKCON. We have been doing interfaith engagement in ISKCON in North America, you won't even believe, for 50 years. 50! So we have accumulated many decades of experience in this realm. And we are known for that. Reach out to your local religious organizations and make the first contact. Got it. I'll be wrapping up in just a few seconds. Invite leaders of other religious organizations and host them. Bring them to your key festivals and events. Train your local priests in the same way you're going to train. Get that brochure I talked about, interfaith brochure, and participate in political causes that engage in interfaith, all right? Priests are the face of our religion, our temples. They know the ins and outs of the congregation. They are the beating heart of our mandirs. So, very important benefits of priests is that when they get interfaith, it will create a bridge of strength between them and temple management. That's important. It's not that priests only do the pujas. Let's take them to the next level, encourage them. All right? So with that, I'll end. Please go to Interfaith Brochure. That's tinyurl.com, Interfaith Brochure. We have all the details on how to go about it, how to get started. We want to increase the trust and faith among the communities, reduce the chances of people coming and spray painting on your temple and vandalizing you. Imagine, why would somebody vandalize your temple if you just had a meeting with them last week and you've shared some tea with them? It's not going to happen. So let's engage. It's only for our good and for the long-term future of Hinduism. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Namaste, everybody. My name is Uma Kaluparambil, and I am the youth coordinator at the HTCI Hindu Temple Central Indiana.
My name is Ravi Karadia, and I am also a youth coordinator at the Hindu Temple of Central Indiana.
Today, we will be addressing the challenges and opportunities that Hindu youth face in America. At a young age, after I had visited the mandir and gotten home, my mother and I decided to go to the grocery store. As we were checking out the cans of tomato soup, a lady approached us and asked, "Why are you people dressed like that? Did you have a cultural event?" At the time, I did not know that the statement that the lady had said was an act of microaggression. Microaggression is a statement that subtly discriminates against members of marginalized groups. These can either be in-group or out-group. The microaggression that happened at the grocery store was an example of an out-group microaggression. This means members of another community discriminate against another. They could also be in groups when members of an individual's community depreciate another, the same community. So microaggressions are detrimental to the Hindu youth because they increase depression rates, increase anxiety, and decrease the appreciation of Hindu culture in Hindu youth. Now, you've probably heard of microaggressions and systemic racism and stereotypes in these HMEC meetings every year. And that is the issue that we are going to discuss, the prevalence of these microaggressions and issues that Hindu youth face. Now Ravi will talk about another issue.
So I'm going to be talking about the stereotypes that Hindu youth are faced with. Before I begin, I'd like to share a quote by Nelson Mandela. We slaughter one another in the stereotypes and mistrust that linger in our heads and the words of hate we spew from our lips. Now, what are stereotypes exactly? These are overgeneralizations about how a certain group of people should act. These can be racial, cultural, or gender-based. Stereotypes faced by Hindus specifically include being unhygienic, being cheap, or being cow worshippers. Now, these generalizations are not only made by other groups of people, but they're often perpetuated by youth in our own community just to fit in or to entertain their friends. These stereotypes often lead to misrepresentations of our culture and reflect poorly on our values. They can often lead to discrimination against Hindus as well. Now
we'll be discussing the solutions to these issues. So for microaggressions specifically, we can instill mentorship. And mentorship fortifies the relationship between older Hindus and younger Hindus. Another thing we could do is mandir social outreach programs. In these programs, we can promote the learning and sharing of our own culture to others of our own culture. And another one is interfaith. In interfaith, we get to learn more about other cultures and diversify our perspectives. These strengthen the bond within our culture.
To address stereotypes that are often used against Hindus, we could encourage education at home. That way youth are better able to explain their values to people of other groups. We should also value education classes at the temple to better educate the youth and point out flaws in the school education system when they teach Hinduism. Now, I'd like to put an emphasis on the second point. This is where the mandir comes in addressing these stereotypes. The mandir is a platform for us to learn our values and practice them with a sense of belonging, and also implement the solutions that Uma just mentioned, such as mentorship and interfaith dialogue.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. Dhanyavad.
This presentation. Alliance. We are trying to get your presentation.
Hello. Is the presentation working now?
Yeah, just give us a minute.
You can be speaking, giving some introduction.
Namaskar, everybody. Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The journey of a Hindu is from ignorance to knowledge, right? And it's inescapable. You know, if we don't learn in this lifetime, we'll have to learn in the future lifetime. But the challenge with learning is that somewhere we get stuck. You know, and when I look at where we typically get stuck, what would you say? Where do Hindus get stuck typically in a learning journey? What would you say? One place is actually quite simple. Other people have referred to it, which is that we don't have time to learn. You know, of all the things we have to do in our lives, taking a class, taking a course is something for which we don't have enough time. That's a sort of a circumstantial stuckness. But there's a more fundamental stuckness that I feel we are vulnerable. We Hindus are vulnerable. We get stuck here. It's a place where we think we know a little bit, but then we think we know enough. We know adequately, right? And you know, I just want to say that even though I'm the president of Hindu University of America, I'm also a student of Hindu University of America, and I take a class every quarter. For the last 4.5 years, every quarter I have been a student in somebody else's class, somebody else teaching. And the immense value of taking a class, personally for me, is that I'm always continually rediscovering how much there is for me to learn. You know, and one of the challenges with the Hindu is that we can always feel unprepared to engage with the education boards, unprepared to engage in the interfaith communities, right? We somehow are not confident. Of course, we may not even know that it is important to engage, right? We may not even know, and that's a kind of a deeper level of ignorance, that to not know that it is important to engage and not care. Because it is only with knowledge that you gain the interest in even caring sufficiently, right? Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti precedes Icha Shakti. Meaning, without knowing that something is important, you cannot even want to participate, right? So, that's my preamble to the Hindu University of America. What we're trying to do is to set up a platform where all Hindus can share in, proudly, confidently, responsibly, and build up an institution of not only significance in the United States of America, but also globally. I'm happy to say that in the last 4.5 years, about 3,000 students have taken classes at HUA. Okay, that's significant. Today we have a little over 300 students enrolled in various programs of study, including a master's in Hindu studies, a doctor of Hindu studies, and a master of arts in Sanskrit, and various certificate programs. Next slide. So these are the various programs: continuing education, certificate programs, graduate programs. You can look it up on the website, no problem. Next slide. How can Hindu mandirs work with HUA? This is a question of very deep significance for me, and I hope for the Hindu mandirs in years to come. We can do weekly specialized webinars, satsangs for mandirs, special day-long, half-day seminars for mandirs, customized for various audiences, youth-focused workshops. We're doing a pilot experiment. We did one this year with the Meenakshi Temple of Houston. We did a youth leadership workshop. We sponsored it and participated in it. We are launching a pilot Bhagavad Gita competition in partnership with the mandirs in North Carolina, in Raleigh. We've just launched a Discovering Dharma, a study tour in India, in the footsteps of Bhagavan Rama. You should take a look at that poster outside. Next slide. So, how do we build capabilities? Youth engagement, at the temple, chaplaincy, local experts and teachers, outreach to mainstream communities, doing Hinduism days for other non-Hindu communities, national competitions for youth and family study tours. These are areas we are working on in terms of pilots so far. Next slide. We are also doing a pilot of a directory of Hindu temples, which hopefully in the course of the next year will become more available. You can take a look at it. It's called hinduliving.org. Next slide, please. Yeah, and for mandirs, you can slowly participate with HUA in different ways. Start with taking courses. Hindu temples is a center of learning. How do we collaborate and work together? And then develop a mature partnership with HUA. Okay. Now, last but not the least, I am offering a course myself this upcoming quarter, starting in about 2 weeks. It's called Distinguishing Varna and Jati from Caste. Okay, I think everybody should take that course because it's an area of major confusion among the Hindus themselves. And it's an area where we are constantly interrogated by our friendly detractors around us, including education boards, curriculum, and so on. So if we want to be a little more responsive and articulate, I think learning is very, very critical. Okay, that's just one course. There are 40 other courses being offered in the fall quarter. We have a catalog of 200 courses, 70 teachers. It's been a terrific journey. We just need to take it to the next level and make sure that all of us participate in building this shared resource is something we all collectively have some responsibility for building. Okay, thank you very much. That's it. We'll take it.
Yes, I can see the hands raised already. So first of all, apologies for the lack of presentations in the beginning because there was a technical failure. So sorry for that, but I think it's often very nice to listen to people without a slideshow. So we did like even those. So now that all the panelists are seated in the center, yeah, so I saw 2 hands raised over there, 3. Can a mic be passed on? Yeah. I think you put us. It's just.
They are worried because of so much of technical issues going on. They are
Oh.
worried to switch it
Oh, okay.
off.
Okay, how much time do we have for Q&A?
We have 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay. Please introduce yourself and ask your question. And let it be a question, not a long comment.
Namaskar. My name is Ram Tiwari. I am from South Florida. And I will give you a geriatric point of view. I have been retired about 11 years. And all these points which have been raised, and I am thankful to late Dr. Ram Prakash Agarwalji. And also Kalyanji, I took my first course, Orientation to Hindu Studies, because I knew I was so ignorant and confused. So thank you, Kalyanji. My question is that when it was said, I think the people who have retired, I retired in 2012. Since that time, I have been now volunteering. I'm on the school board advisory board where the question was raised. We are working that in 24-25 in Broward County schools, with 300 of them are there, we will have a Diwali day. It has been approved, resolution has been passed, and we followed the process. We invited the school board to our temple. We told them about it. So I am saying interfaith after 2011, so 2011, after disaster, a Muslim took over and he created interfaith group called Jewish and Muslim and all faiths organizations. He took the lead. When I wanted to join, I said, you have to change the name because there are no only Jews and Muslims. What is the all faith? So anyway, I have been volunteering for 11 years and it could be done. It could be done. And engage if you go to the city commission, there is 3 minutes time where public comments are invited. I go there, I comment on the 1971 Bangladesh, this and that. So I'm saying all those people who have retired, I think they should be engaging in volunteering for Hindu causes. Thank you.
Request for the attendees to make it a question so that we all get to hear the solution.
I'm Mohinder Gulati, and I represent Global Hindu Temple Network, which is an organization we have just started. We are taking baby steps, and the intention is, purpose is to connect 1.5 million. Let that word sink in. 1.5 million Hindu temples, Hindu mandirs around the world into one information network. Question that I have is twofold. In this conference, as well as in other conversations, I hear two words, common refrain. One, struggle to survive. Second, anxiety about the generation next. Any organism that tries to survive will go extinct. Only an organism that tries to thrive will survive. So therefore, how, and that's a question to all of us, how do we get out of this defensive mindset of survival and go into an assertive mindset of thriving so that we'll definitely survive? That's question number one for them. And just one quick question on the youth. This thriving will happen only when we get the generation next into this fold. And therefore, what we have heard so far, and I hear it everywhere, we should do this and we should do that and we should give this and we should give that. which is a very supply-driven approach. Do we talk to the youth and ask them what are their concerns, what are their apprehensions, what are their doubts, what is the demand that they have, rather than us thinking about them and trying to deliver to them something that we think that they need? And therefore the question is, do we ask the young people 1,000 questions that you wanted to ask but were never allowed to ask? So let's collect those 1,000 questions and respond to that in the language that they understand. It is their language, not our language. Thank you.
I can answer. Can you hear me? So, sir, your points about survival versus thriving is very well taken. And I just want to give a background that why it is, in my opinion, that for centuries, when Hindus were feeling suppressed, there is a movement coming now with the Shri Ram, right? Shri Ram Bhumi. And it's a process. So it may take a little time when we change the mode from the surviving, like wake up call, to the thriving. So, but your point is very valid. We need to remain and exercise positivity that we are surviving, but we need to thrive and we can. And with everybody's efforts, I see more attendees in this HMEC than in the last year. So that's a very positive sign. Your other question about the youth, maybe I would let them answer.
Okay, so thank you for your question. So you mentioned, how do we incentivize the youth to come to the mandir and get exposure to their culture and religion? Well, as youth, I think that everyone in general actually wants to fit in, because that's how society is. So the way we do that is to normalize Hinduism. And just like this uncle mentioned here, having a Diwali celebration at school will aid that process, and it will help not only our youth learn about Hinduism, but youth from other cultures and other religions, as this uncle also mentioned about interfaith. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a question over there. There was a question over that side of the room, but we'll take that. Yeah. But it has to be a question, the sincere request for all the attendees. Yeah.
My question is to Mr. Kalyan, and I have made some foundation for that question, so it is not straightforward. Actually, it is based on the discussion that you very rightly mentioned. And I come from this point in last year. That we have to see, what they have to ask. So last year, we, International Hindu University, promised that we will get into starting this work at least. And we did get started, and our student, PhD student, whom also we found in that convention last year, has written this first paper on the questions to be asked, which are the kids and adults also, and there is extension. Now I'll come to my question.
Microphone.
So, I think we
Excuse me, microphone. Can't hear.
more than the youth. First, we need to find similarly that we are finding the answers to the youth question. You have to find a way to induce or to invoke insurgency in the parents of these youth, so that they can. I'm coming to the question once again. I'm coming. Yes. That's what I'm doing, sir. They have some patience. They have never thousands of months, spent thousands of dollars to come and learn something and give something. So have some patience. So my question is, as universities, you are Hindu University of America, I'm International Hindu University. What can we do to produce such courses for the parents where we can invoke their Shakti they will have more, what you call the desire for themselves to learn and for their children to learn about Hinduism or Islam. Thank you, sir.
And I think you also can ask your question and they can answer it together.
Yeah, so my question is that why we depend upon the school district to make a holidays. My faith of celebration Diwali is much more than one day unexcused leave. So I encourage my kids not to go on school, take unexcused leave, and if there, I think Swamiji said there are 13,000 Indian families, maybe 5,000 high school students who don't go to school on Diwali, and then say right with the school district that it's a Diwali, that's why we are not coming. Our right to observe holiday is not subjected to my contribution to society. It's my constitutional right, and we should not be had, prisoner to doing something, then getting back something type of situation. Yeah, so I'm saying we should be encourage people to celebrate our religious festival and take holidays, excuse holidays even. We should not wait for ISDs or school district.
Thank you so much for your question. I think that question can be answered by Deepika Karthik
At HUA, we have 200 plus courses today. Okay. I mean, your course seemed to indicate, is there that one magical course that will attract Hindus to come into the world of actually studying? As in all cases, right, the Hindu community is so diverse, with so many interests, so many sampradayas, so many traditions, so many access points to the world of Hinduism. I don't think there is one answer, that there is one course that's going to do it for everybody. And the task of lighting that curiosity, that interest, that lamp of curiosity, that interest in wanting to study is an ongoing activity. And I don't think there's any silver bullet to it. We just got to keep working and working at it. So that's the approach we are taking so far. Okay. And I sympathize with the question, the spirit of the question. Okay. Thank you.
I have two questions and I'll just ask, make a little comment and.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that question. It's a very interesting question that you asked, that yes, the school districts do allow what is known as an excused absence, which you can take on such days. But my thought is as follows. See, what happens is when we have holidays for Eid, we have holidays for Rosh Hashanah, we have holidays for other festivals, if Diwali, the most important Hindu festival, which all Hindus celebrate, if we don't get a holiday declared by the school district for our children, how do you think it makes them feel? It diminishes the value of our own celebration, right? If I tell my children, you can get an excused absence, and I tell all the Hindu children in my community that take an excused absence, sit at home, but the school district will not give you a holiday for that day, diminishes the value of our own traditions, right? I highly encourage every school district that has a significant Hindu population to demand for a holiday on Diwali. See, I'll explain with one more small example, which I did not say in my presentation. The Rutgers University, the religious life at Rutgers University, if you see the homepage, a couple of months ago, there was no mention of Hindu as a category at Rutgers. As a parent, I wrote to Rutgers University and I said, you have a significant, in New Jersey, you have a significant Hindu population. We deserve a recognition by ourselves. We are not going to be othered anymore. We are not in the other category, right? So what did Rutgers University do? A couple of parents and myself, we wrote to them. They actually provided us with a separate drop box, a separate box where we can check as Hindu. What would have happened if we were in the other box? lot of children would not have picked the other and would have not mentioned Hindu. They had to type it with their hand. Today they see an exclusive name where they can put their own tick mark and say, I am a student of Rutgers and my faith is Hindu, and there is a box now. Right? So the example I'm trying to say is, we are no longer other. We will not be other, and this is the reason why. When all other religions are getting their recognition, why should we be other?
Thank you, Deepaji. We are officially out of like at the time, but we are all seekers here. As Sanatanis, we are all seekers. So we will take last two questions, one from, but we'll come back. You all know it's a tight scheduled conference, and the entire day we are all together, and people can ask the questions during the networking time and other things. So my sincere request. I know green sari person. Sorry, I can't see your back from here. No two questions, ma'am. Only one question, and it has to be a direct question now. Lakshmanji, I'll come to you later on. I saw that hand first, and then gentleman here. So two questions. My apologies. We have to wrap up this session. Sir, you have to wait because.
Some guidelines how to promote today youth, not only by celebrating Diwali or some festival. So what the question is that originally is how to improve the youth mind to
Yes.
into the Hinduism. Do we have any curriculum or guidelines or by promote this to the continuously, not only on one Diwali?
It's a question for HMEC. Okay, then we will take it offline and we will respond to that question. Yes, ma'am. And please, direct question. Thank you.
Just one very quick comment and then I'll ask the question. My
No, I'm sorry. I am sorry. It is our responsibility to wind up the sessions and make it more meaningful to all the attendees. My request is direct question, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
My question is related to with that. My first question is that are we approaching any big businessmen and all? Because until and unless there is a reward, everybody will stay. Because I belong to a temple, and everybody comes, and people who come there or trustees, they are very rich. They never bring their children because their children is in this sport and that sport. So because they don't see any reward bringing them to the spiritual things. So until unless we reach to big businessmen, whether India or from here, we are not, and who can give money to the school for Hindu studies or Hindi medium and all, we are not going to, be successful. So that is my question. Are we approaching that way? And my second question
So, ma'am, one question. Thank you so much. Are we approaching
very common that everybody is speaking in English? And if it is the Hindu Mandir Executive Conference, can we present it in Hindi and let everybody, or any language, any Indian
answer your first question.
and let everybody learn that language. Yeah.
So I will try to answer your first question, about like getting some wealthy donor to donate and so these practices, it's your opinion and we respect that you believe that unless and until a wealthy donor is on the scene to give donation but it can happen, and it has happened in many places in universities, colleges, that there were big Hindu donors, and on their name a hall is made or a room is made and a program is done or a scholarship is made, and that have all helped. But there are other ways to enhance the programs or give the teachings of the Sanatana Dharma values. Okay, so for time constraints, we can go on.
Apologies to everybody because I know there are plenty of questions. No, there is.
Everybody, how ask a question.
Nobody gets offense here because time is short and so we have to go according to the time.
I think thanks to all the presenters, and I think we should now move on.
The best question of the day.
We were supposed to start our second session at 9:30. We are at 9:40 now. We'll take a 5-minute break and then come back again here. So thank you so much. It's a stretch time. We'll come back here for our next session. Thank you so much. Like the back? No, for
Oh, that's
whatever like present like strategy
We already have
And then her mom is sitting there. So that's it. And we cover that is a symbolic step. I should like it. I'm expecting that some kind of sentiment in your writings. Yeah, that's it. That's.
Namaste, everybody, please take a seat. We will be starting our next session.
Bring people. Take my question.
Namaste, everybody.
Namaste. Lakshmanji, we need your help. Hello.
Yeah, Junior, Sunday here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting. Please take your seats.
Everybody, please come.
This is for
HMEC coordinators, we are starting the next session. Anita ji.
Namaste, everybody. If you could please take your seat, we will be starting the next session.
Hello, hello.
Namaste, everybody. We will be beginning our third session. To start, I would like to introduce Vallabhaji. Vallabha Dhansari has been a resident of Minnesota, USA for the past 19 years. She is a regulatory affairs associate for a leading medical device company. Vallabha hails from a family of priest astrologers. She has been blessed with the opportunity to serve as the president of the Hindu Society of Minnesota from 2018 to 2019. She has initiated and led the temple's social service efforts, such as serving meals to homeless shelters and organizing blood donation drives at the mandir. Please welcome her on stage. Also, before I start, I would like to mention after all the panelists present, please just ask questions. We know you guys are thrilled to be here and you have so many questions, but please just ask questions. Thank you. Please welcome her on stage. Thank you.
So the next session is Monday's role in Dharma advocacy. It's a panel discussion. It is about the public engagement, and we have wonderful speakers here. Srimati Shruti Parikji, Ved Nandaji, and Prem Pulusuri here on the stage. This has always been $1 million question, not on the fundraising side. $1 million is cutting for all the temples, but it's $1 million question with the changing landscape of Hinduism or Dharma in US. What or how much should we engage in political advocacy at the mandir? We are all worried about the 501c3 status of our temples. Believe me, I am a temple representative, I am a temple volunteer. I truly understand where this predicament comes for all the temple executives. But with the when we talk about the youth engagement, when we talk about what it takes to bring the youth to the temple, when we did a gut check in Hindu Society of Minnesota, the answer, one of the answer was, of course, the seva, the service was there for the youth to stay engaged, but they also wanted to see public engagement. There's so many things going on in the outside world. I'm talking about 2020, with COVID and so many other things. But why is the temple not taking the stand on these things, and the non-controversial, stay in the lane attitude of the temples was not something that the youth were looking forward to. So, to having identified that gap, HMEC has been relentlessly for past 2-3 years, at least that's what I have recollection, and it has been doing probably before that as well. Relentlessly, working on bringing solutions as we have identified that gap. To response to that gap or the challenge, we have this session during HMEC of Mandir's role in Dharma advocacy, how we can stay in the lane and yet be very productive and very fruitful in our interaction with the community. So without further ado, we do have Shri Kanejarji listed on our program schedule. Unfortunately, due to some last minute thing, he couldn't join us. He was, if you all have read the news in past 6 months, he was very instrumental in creating the Hindu caucus. Mind you, it's not India caucus, it's Hindu caucus. It's not India or Samosa caucus, it is Hindu caucus at Washington DC. A big round of applause for Shri Kanejarji, even though he's not here in person. Next, we go on to Shruti Parekh-ji, who will be talking about electoral advocacy and voter registration drive in Mandirs. Before she takes on stage, I would like to give a brief introduction. Shruti Parekh-ji is the head of education and political engagement at North Carolina Asian Americans Together. Shruti was born in Vadodara, India, and arrived in the US at 2 years old. When she was 2 years old, growing up in the Midwest, Shruti earned her BS in mathematics at the University of Michigan and her master's in management at North Carolina State University. After many years volunteering in her community and raising her 3 children with her husband, she turned her attention to voter engagement. She came to NCAAT to organize South Asians in North Carolina. Since then, she has worn several hats, recently as Director of Voter Engagement, managing NCAAT's field operations. She, in her current role, manages ensures the strategic plans are sound, manages all educational efforts, and provides external outreach. A big round of applause to Shruti Parekh-ji.
Thank you very much. Namaskar and Jai Shri Krishna. Next slide, please. As mentioned, my name is Shruti Parikh, and I am the head of. Is that better? Yes. Wonderful. So my name is Shruti Parikh, and I am the head of education and political engagement at North Carolina Asian Americans Together, or also known as NCAT. NCAT is a 501c3 nonprofit organization formed in 2015 to uplift the voices of North Carolina Asian Americans in the electoral process. We do this through civic engagement activities, including registering people to vote, turning them out to vote, and educating them on voting methods and laws. We also provide community engagement services, youth leadership activities, and political advocacy. We aim to become a trusted source of information for Asian voters in North Carolina. So before I continue, I want to just make 3 points about today's voting environment. Next slide, please. Although the 2020 presidential election saw record voter turnout among Asian American voters and Indian voters, there has been a decline in that number since during the 2022 election. Additionally, there is no central or common organization encouraging our community to vote. This has created an opportunity for someone to step in. And in many states, constantly changing maps and voting laws cause confusion among voters, highlighting the need for education. So why is voter engagement important? Participating in civic and voter engagement can allow Indian American voters to have a voice in the laws and policies that impact them. I think someone mentioned today, making Diwali a holiday. This is where we can make a difference. We can increase voter registration and thus turn out Indian American and Hindu voters. As the fastest growing ethnic population in the country, Indian Americans can not only fulfill their civic duty and dharma, but also build collective power and ensure that issues important to our community are given proper attention. Next slide, please. Currently, there are 4.4 million people in the United States who identify as Asian Indian alone, meaning they identify as 100% Asian Indian. That number is now higher than the number of Asian Chinese alone. And this does not include many people who also identify as Asian Indian plus one or more other ethnicities. Approximately 56% of these people are eligible to vote. And of these voters, over 52% have never been contacted by a community organization or political party. This is a massive opportunity for Hindu temples to engage and activate these voters and be that trusted messenger. Additionally, given the current political climate, small margins often win many races nationwide. In fact, a recent town council in Fayetteville, North Carolina, near the Hindu Society of North Carolina, was won by just 6 votes. North Carolina Asian Americans Together worked in Fayetteville, North Carolina to activate Indian voters, Asian voters there. So we know that our voters made that difference and helped get that candidate over the line. Lastly, in 2013, the US House of Representatives had a single Indian American member. Fewer than 10 Indian Americans were serving in state legislatures. None had been elected to the Senate, none had run for president, and despite being one of the largest immigrant groups in the United States, Americans of Indian descent were barely represented in politics. Fast forward to now, 10 years later in 2023, the current Congress includes 5 Indian Americans and nearly 50 are in state legislatures. The Vice President is Indian American, and with Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy's candidacies, 2024 is the 3rd consecutive cycle in which an Indian American has run for president, and the first cycle with 2 Indian American candidates. Next slide, please. So why should temples get involved? Our temples are central to our communities and are places not only of worship, but we're also social centers where large groups of Indian Americans gather. They are a trusted source of information and can share the message of importance of voting in an impactful and persuasive way. Temples can also uplift community voices and empower voters through legal activities, such as voter registration drives, providing nonpartisan voter guides, and other voter education, including methods of voting, election days and times, and polling sites. They can also encourage voter turnout through nonpartisan get out the vote activities. Next slide, please. There are plenty of examples of how Asian Indian voter turnout and representation have made a positive difference. Here's a couple for you. Council members Satish Garimella and Steve Rao have been active town council members in Morrisville, North Carolina, which is more than 40% Asian. As Indian American elected officials, they understand constituents' issues and can advocate for them effectively. During their terms, they have supported town-wide Diwali and Holi celebrations and have even built a cricket park for the residents of Morrisville. This is among other things. Additionally, we have Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal from Washington. She is the first South Asian American woman to serve in the House of Representatives. She herself has said, "I am reminded how much representation matters. I'm a proud, naturalized citizen, the first South Asian American woman elected to the House, and an immigrant woman of color. Serving in Congress is a distinct honor, not only because I can deliver for my constituents, but because I can show other South Asians that if I can make it into the halls of Congress, so can they." And lastly, recent statewide elections in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia were decided by margins of less than 0.5%. Census records show that Indian Americans account for a larger share of the population than the difference between the 2 candidates. In the 2022 Georgia runoff elections, Indian American voters turned out at high rates and were a significant voting bloc, helping to vote in Senator Warnock, clearly showing that when activated and turned out, we are a considerable force. Next slide, please. In conclusion, there are 3 takeaways. Yes, Temples can legally participate in nonpartisan voter engagement efforts, including voter registration drives, get out the vote initiatives, and educational efforts. One way to do this is to partner with an organization like mine, like North Carolina Asian Americans Together, to help you run these activities. We have the expertise and can help support your efforts. I have connections with groups across the country just like mine, and I'm happy to make introductions in your state. So please connect with me. Next, our community is fast growing and our voters can impact elections and build collective power, and we must activate our voters. And lastly, our voices deserve to be heard and our issues matter. Temples must fill that void and become that trusted messenger to help our community get to the ballot box. I'll be here through tomorrow and I'm happy to answer your questions, share more information, or make connections. So please find me. Thank you, and then.
Thank you, Suki, for a very informative talk here. Next, I request Shri Vednanda ji to come on to the podium. Introduction, Padma Bhushan Professor Vednanda ji serves as the chairperson of the board of Hindu University of America. Dr. Nanda is a professor of law at the Strum College of Law, University of Denver, and serves as director emeritus of International Legal Studies program there. In 2006, Professor Nanda was honored with the founding of Nanda Center for International Law. He served as vice provost at the University of Denver from 1994 to 2008. He holds and has held numerous official posts in international, regional, national, professional, and civil society organizations. He's widely published, having authored or co-authored 24 books in various fields of international law. Professor Vednanda has also received a number of awards, including the Gandhi King Ikeda Award for Community Peace Building. Thank you so much, Professor Vednanda ji. Thank you.
Sadar Namaskar, everyone. It is uplifting to see all these wonderful people. I have so many friends sitting here. Sadar Pranam to everyone. And I came here a little late for the first session. But question answer period, I was here. And I simply want you to know that you reinforced my firm conviction that nobody can speak more than we Hindus can. And second, that Sanatana Dharma asks us to be inquisitive, ask questions, and you don't have any dearth of questions. So I deeply appreciate all of you as devotees of Sanatana Dharma. Let me begin. I'm a law professor, so I should be asking questions. How many of these mandirs have the 501c status? Could you kindly raise your hands? 501c status. Wonderful. And how many of you don't have 501c status? Can you raise your hands? It's absolutely wonderful, because all of you know what I'm going to say. So goodbye. I don't need to say anything. And since all of you know, one of you should come here and tell everyone what needs to be done for 501c3. In any event, let me very briefly mention to you that, as all of you know, it's a corporation that is permitted under the tax code, this section 501c3, that you can, as a non-profit organization, participate in educational, scientific, religious, or charitable purposes. So those are the purposes that you can participate in. As Mandars, we all have educational purpose. We teach languages, we teach Vedas if the need be, we teach all kinds of our own Hindu scriptures and educational issues. There is no dearth of that we do in our own mandars. I am chairman of my Hindu Temple and Cultural Center of Iraqis and its founding president. And so for many, many years, I have seen our own temple, our own mandir, and the executive board participate in all these activities. I won't go into them, but whether it's arts, whether it's dancing, whether it's music, it's bhajans, it's linguistic issues, all kinds of pravachan and bhajans, satsang, all of those things in all these temples take place. So no issue about education. Religious, we are part of it, and I'm given 3 more minutes, so let me say goodbye. So let me continue. So all of you have incorporated yourself, articles of incorporation. So kindly raise your hands with articles of incorporation. Articles of incorporation. How many of you have registered yourself with the Secretary of State in your own state? Kindly do, all of you, because as our own mandars, we need to take care of federal, we need to take care of state, we need to take care of our municipal, our own city, all kind of laws. Because in terms of own laws, this country is a country that is the most litigious society in the world. I teach law, and so I understand litigation. That is part of the psyche of law schools. And at the present time, what we are trying to do is to tell our students litigation is not the most important thing. Try to find alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. That is a mediation, that's arbitration. I have to ask you a question that may not be very pleasant, but how many of you in your temples, because of any reason, have to go to a law, to a court on litigation? Please raise your hands. I'm so glad that it's very few of you. But kindly see that in your own bylaws, if you can add one thing, and that would be that dispute resolution mechanism is going to be mediation, it's going to be arbitration, not litigation. And at the same time, I need to simply mention to you that as mandars, because we have educational, scientific, cultural, religious, charitable purposes that we need to work on, that we cannot lobby. Just now we heard about political issues. We cannot participate in political issues. What does that mean? Does that mean that our own elected officials, from the governor to in our own federal setting, we do have senators, we have Congress people, we have got in our own state representatives, state senators, and then we've got a mayor, city council. Can we not engage with them? And the answer is that we need to. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a couple more minutes. And if you think that I should take a couple more minutes, raise your hands. So I'm so sorry. I'm going to take 3 more minutes. So the setting is very important for us. And that is that we need to. We can't lobby, we can't endorse, we can't oppose any candidate. But at the same time, how do we engage with them? We need to invite them to our programs. Somebody wants to make a speech. He or she is a candidate. Do we permit that person to do that? And the answer is yes. But at the same time, we need to be sure that we have open participation for people of all parties. And we ought to be permitting them to participate for the same office if we are inviting somebody. And the person who comes in can speak, can talk about his or her own policies, but at the same time, the door is open for some other people. But at the same time, we do not endorse, we do not oppose a candidate, and we don't lobby. Because I need to simply suggest to you that although there may be no law enforcement, but we ought to be very sure that we comply with the laws. And at the same time, for our own temple security, how many of you have worked with law enforcement authorities? Please raise your hands. Very good. Those who have not, I would suggest to you that in all of your own areas, you've got law enforcement people. You have got, along with that, your own U.S. attorney. That U.S. attorney is the one who is responsible for enforcing federal laws. If there is a hate crime, that is the person that you've got to go to. So please make sure that in your own temple, in your own city, if you have not yet invited them, invite law enforcement people. We love our own utsavs. We celebrate them with a great deal of gusto. In my own temple, and all of you have done that, Holi, we had 1,500 people. It's a small place, Denver, Colorado, but 1,500 people. And included in that, since we are talking about elected officials, included in that was a U.S. representative and U.S. representative in Washington. He's my former student. We had a mayor, we had the governor, we had city council people, we had also all kinds of officials. And the point simply is that they'll come if you invite them. Similarly, there is no reason that the media ought not to be there. I write a regular column for the Denver Post. It's syndicated several times. But at the same time, the point simply is, it's not emails. It's not simply telephone calls. We need to meet people. We need to know who is there on the editorial board. And there is no reason that we can't. And we've got wonderful dances. We've got wonderful music. We've got wonderful programs. Why shouldn't they come? And why shouldn't they give dissemination, publicity to what we do? Sitting in front of me are people like Brahmdevji, Brahmji Agarwal, and in Orlando. There are so many people who have, at the present time, good contacts with the people. And so my request to you would be, use media, that is opinion makers, use at the same time elected officials. They need to know us. They need to know what we do. They need to know about Hindu thought, Hindu values. They are needed today in the world. And so the temple is the one that is the gathering place. It's a nexus for the community. It's religious, it's spiritual, it's educational, it's charitable. We do all of that. And so I want to congratulate you. I want to thank you. I'm so glad that you are all 501c3, comply with all the laws, and become the nexus, not simply for Hindu community, but for the community in the area where you live. And I think Hindu values, Hindu thought, it has to be in this country
as a dominant theme. Why shouldn't in our own schools, in our own universities, be Hindu literature as part of the curriculum? Why shouldn't we have our own Hindu sages and seers as part of people like Socrates and others? So the time has come that we in this country, now that we are getting that kind of visibility, and there are all kinds of challenges to us and people all the time threatening us. So the time has come that Hindu values prevail, that all that is needed in this country where people can't even tolerate each other. We have said, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. We have said that the entire human race is one. Vasudev Kutumbakam. Let's make all that a reality. Let our temples, let our own mothers be the shining light in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Vednandaji, for that insightful, journey or insightful speech about how to navigate the public engagement sphere, being the 5013C organization. So next I call upon Shri Prem Pulusuriji, and he will be talking about leveraging federal grants and strengthening the Hindu community and dharmic centers. About Prem Kumarji, he is a full-time Seva volunteer called Seva Vriti. Worked as a chief technology officer for a New York-based software firm for 25 years. Recently resigned from the job and started working as a full-time Karyakarta volunteer for Seva. He moved to Maryland near DC with wife Lakshmi ji. Two daughters are in college in New Jersey. A Swayam Sevak since his childhood. Back in Bharat, he was born and brought up in Khammam, Telangana. In college life, worked as an active Vidyarthi Parishad Karyakarta. After education, worked full-time for social cause for 3 years in Uttar Pradesh. And after returning from full-time, moved to the US. So a warm welcome to Prem Kumar.
Manya Vedanandaji, Shruti, and all our respected guests, hosts, and organizers. Sadat Pranam. So before timekeepers, I was given 15 minutes of time. Before getting into my topic of how to tap into the funds, government funds, I would like to take 2 minutes to share some other message. Exactly the day before yesterday, that was September 28th, I was in White House representing who is least qualified, but I was representing 4 million Hindu population in US. I was representing Hindus in White House. And that also actually was not qualified, but as FEMA federal agents worked closely with us, so they kind of nudged for me to attend that meeting. And that was with Homeland Security. From all the faiths were there. There were only 23 representatives from different faiths. And half of them were from Muslim community, even small, our detractors, that is Indian American Muslim Council, like that. So the point is very unfortunate that there was nobody to represent the Hindu community there in the Homeland Security meeting in White House. Sure. So next time we have to make sure HBN, we have to work with them so that we get enough presentation in those. So Homeland Security has a faith advisory council with whom Homeland Security work very closely, even in formulating policies and all that. In that, I verified is there any Hindu actually, anybody from Hindu community, there was none. Out of 25, that advisory council, there is no Hindu representative. So this kind of resonates what we were hearing yesterday and today, that we Hindus are all like inward, but we also have to be outward. It's very important. That is important because their government wants to work with us to protect our community. And also, they have a lot to offer to us, and also they want to listen our concerns, our issues, so that they can work on that with us. So that's one important point. Other is how to secure the places of worship. There are so many resources available from government side, from Homeland Security side. So I brought that information like 2 sheets. I gave it to Anita ji. She's going to make copies of them and make them available at the front desk. They are there. Yeah, so please take each of you because they are all the government resources. How you can use to secure temples. That's second. Third is I spoke with the secretary, and because I'm very next year, yesterday I'm coming here, and there was no representation in the day before yesterday's meeting. So he said they will be happy to come and meet us and what Homeland Security has to offer to Hindu community, to the temples next year. So they will be once the place and the date is decided for the next year's HMEC. Let us invite them so that Homeland Security can come and they can share what they have to offer for our community. So with that, let us go to my topic. So for any to do any Shubha, we need blessings of 3 Devis, right? Which all we know. One is Jnana Chahiye, that means what we want to do, that knowledge, that is Saraswati Devi's blessings, which we have. Next is Lakshmi Devi blessings, that's money, which we don't have many times. And the third is Durga Mata's blessings, that is the organizational strength, to implement that, to do that karya. So if we have money, even we can get to organizational strength. So this topic is about how to get the blessings of Lakshmi Devi. So just to recap of a couple of points what other speakers mentioned yesterday and today that connects to my topic. So yesterday, Swami Satyananda ji said that volunteers can do only limited because of limited bandwidth, maybe great enthusiasm, limited bandwidth and not having the skills. He suggested that use staff, paid staff. And Asha Vidya Gurukulam, they engage 58 paid staff, and we can see the work. That's one point. And yesterday, Vidyananda Swami also mentioned in US Jewish community, they give 7.5% of their income for the community cause. Muslims give 5% of their income to the community cause, their community cause. And Hindus give 0.02% to the community cause. So that is something to think about. But also Hindus do one different thing. That is 1% of Hindu population give 6% of US taxes. That's some number, a big number. So that also some point to remember for our topic. But anyway, that there we don't give, that's taken by them. That's why 6% growth. So coming to this my topic, how to get that, there are so many sources, but usually temples, all our organizations, we look for these individual donors, like local businesses, business person or a doctor for any temple project, right? But in the morning, in this session only, $1 million question, right? Actually, now there's $1 billion question that there are billions of dollars available from government agencies for the communities, for faiths, for 501c3 organizations. So that is what we are going to discuss. And as a teaser on that, I represent Seva International, which is also 501c3, and we are a Hindu faith-based organization. We proudly say that. So this year, Seva, we got $4 million from federal government for our 6 projects. That is this year's. And we do get other funding too from other agencies, from corporations, from individual foundations and all of that's there. But just from federal government, we got $4 million this year. So there's an example which you also can tap into. There are billions of dollars on the table, and how you can get it. So this is not actually a workshop really how to get it. This is just a kind of an idea to share with you. That is, there are funds available with the government, not just federal government. There are different agencies. We will go through that. Again, that's not complete list too, but just to tell you. Then Seva is going to conduct a workshop for all the temples. So who are interested to really tap into this, I think everyone should be interested. So there we'll discuss, what are all available, what projects you can take, and how to get those funding. So we said yesterday, Vijnananda Swami also said one more very interesting point. That is, for a temple, our mandirs, they do 14 things. But a temple to be called as a temple, at least they have to do 5 things. And out of those 5, the fourth and fifth are, the fourth is Annadana, the fifth is Agrahara. So that means the Agrahara is education. So Annadana, so that also connects to us. So we'll go through that. Let's see what all the projects temples can do. So if you can go back to the previous screen. Okay, so here it says Hindu mandirs are not just a place of worship, but they are community centers. Seven Nation can help you tap into those funds for various temple projects and keep the Sanatana Dharma. Yeah, next screen. Next screen. So these are different departments where there are funds available. Community development block grants, social service block grants, Department of Labor grants, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration grants. Next screen. Next screen. There are so many other actually. Department of Housing, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Parks and Recreation, Department of Education. So all that. Next screen. I don't need to read all that. Okay, so this I'm skipping. This is temple security. Just to secure the temples, also there are grants, and I think one of the temples is doing that already. The presenter is not here, so that's why I'm skipping that. But in our workshop, we can include that too. So if you see volunteer development, do you know there are millions of grants, dollars of grants just to develop volunteers? We temples depend on volunteers for lots of things, right? But even to develop the volunteers, there are grants available, and to develop a system, how to manage those volunteers, how to work on the projects. Then there are grants available. They are called Vista grants. So Vista grants are, you have some idea in your community, in the temple. For example, you want to develop a community garden within the temple, in the temple land, where you want to grow like plants, vegetables, and all that, right? For the temple purpose and for the community purpose. But even to develop that plan, there are grants available called Vista grants, where you can hire actually paid employees just to develop your plan. So they are called Vista grants. For example, for New Jersey, we got one grant that is $100,000 grant this year in Seva, and that is not really implementing the project. There's also planning grant. So to plan, we got $100,000 of grant. So like that, you can get grants just to develop the plans. So there are some temples, who want to do because it's morning Madan Das Swamiji also was mentioning, right? The outgoing is very important for the temples. The temples are culture centers. We are the community centers. So how do you engage with mainstream, with law enforcement, with others, interfaith, everything, right? So as part of that, especially ISKCON temple, recently I was talking with Gaurangdas Prabhu. Gaurangdas Prabhu was saying that only ISKCON temples figured out how to reach non-Hindus, right? They attract many non-Hindus and they make them Hindus. One of the ways is actually to Annadana. They offer Annadana there. So now many other temples are also getting onto that, but there it seems like Chapo, that's a big thing, but there are so many grants available for just to run food pantry. The good thing with temples is temple is a facility. You have a building, you have place, a physical facility is there. And in that, sparing a room won't be a big problem just to maintain a pantry. Pantry is very easy to maintain thing, right? And lots of funds are available just to maintain the pantry for the community. Then there is a soup kitchen type, where you can really offer the food to do, but that's another thing. Then there are some temples who also offer clinics, like free clinics. For Indians and their parents, who came from India, or they can be some undocumented. So there are so many. If you can go to the next slide. Youth and mentoring program, senior services, crisis intervention counseling, disaster preparedness, relief recovery, environmental stewardship, sustainable gardening. So all these are some ideas. There are so many ideas. These are all some ideas. We just need to package it, then apply for it. But you have to be very serious to implement the project. It's not something, okay, we got the grant, then it's not like that. So with that, you can give your name to the organizers or you can give your name to me. We are going to conduct a workshop for the temples, how to tap into these funds.
For making us aware of all the grants that is available. Nobody knew about the Vista grant or the food pantry grant. I think if we open up the floor for questions, I know there will be a lot of questions, but in the interest of time, don't shoot the messenger. The program team is requesting me to forego the questions, but definitely please talk to the panelists during the lunchtime. And as I was listening to all the speakers here, I think each speaker needs 1 hour, 2 hours of, HMEC, maybe a grant writing or some kind of sessions. I think that is one of the action, Tejalji, we can take, and we'll have that as a Zoom meeting. I'm pretty sure that one question here and there would not answer all of our questions that information that we want. So sincere apologies for scrapping the question session of this particular panel. I request all the panelists to, thank you for coming here, and we'll meet you during the lunchtime or other time. So moving on to the next session, a big round of applause. I next call upon for the next session. It is a continuation of Mandir's role in Dharma advocacy. So to talk about the impact of caste resolution on Mandir, requesting Ajay Shahji to come and Satish Sharma ji to talk about social issues, impact on Mandirs, and Anita Gupta ji to talk about the grant writing for the temple security, the physical violence and the Hinduphobia related action. So requesting all the panel members to come on the stage. Somebody from the back will move. Control solely is moving it, so you yeah. So quickly introducing the panelists, I'll start with Ajay Shahji. Ajay Shahji currently serves as the president of BHPA. He co-founded Hindu Students Council, HSC, the largest organization of Hindu students outside India, and the HinduNet pioneering website on Hindu Dharma. He is the founder and convener of BHPA initiatives, American Hindus Against Defamation Ahad, the first Hindu movement against defamation of Hindu Dharma, and the Hindu Policy Research and Advocacy Collective, Hindu Pact. He serves on the board of the trustees of the Hindu University of America. Ajay is also an adjunct professor at the Amrita University. A warm welcome to Ajay Shahji.
So I know that there's a lot of activities going on in the room. So if you go to the next slide, I just kind of incentivize everyone. So I heard that Sohini knows this. Couple of weeks ago, I was at the HSE meeting, and I found a way to get everyone's attention. And I said that if if I ask a question, and then I said that if people can answer this question, I'll give them a Starbucks gift card. So here is the question. So people are not paying attention. I just want to kind of say that at the end I will reveal this. In the meantime, so the question is, what mandir is this, and when and why did it make the history? And you have to actually answer the whole thing. So maybe you can. I know a lot of people will just take a picture and run it through Google image search and get the answer. This is okay. I mean, I know it's the work that counts. Let's go to the next one before anyone takes a picture. All right, so how did we get here, right? That's the question, right? So we are here. How did we? Maybe I can just. How about this? Okay, so how did we get there? Again, how did we get here? So let's go. I'm going to go really fast and go through many slides, okay? But keep in mind, there's a Starbucks gift card waiting for someone. Let's go next slide. All right. This is an article in The Atlantic, The Truth Behind Indian American Exceptionalism. And it says, look, the richest minority in the world, in America, which is the world, for us. All right, the richest minority in America, and things are really well, right? I mean, there's so many, yesterday, I think Swami Satyananda mentioned that so many CEOs are Hindus and all the other stuff. So things should be really great. We should be having HMEC to celebrate that. But what's going on? Let's go to the next slide. Look at this. This is Hindu deities are insulted. Right? Next slide. This is what is happening with Hindu festivals. Hindu festivals are weaponized against Hindus. Next slide. This is what is happening to our sacred symbols. Om and swastika. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. This is what is happening to our scriptures. This is what is actually a communication between a professor at UCSD and the state of the Department of Education in California. So the very significant. It says that really the word, the Hindu scriptures, like Bhagavad Gita and Vedas, even Vedas, have been appropriated by Hindus from the native population. Whatever that native population means. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And then there is a cancel culture, right? Here is what what happened to Tulsi Gabbard when she tried to run for president. There was someone who was always out protesting any Hindu candidate, didn't matter if it was Republican, Democrat, Independent, every Hindu candidate who says that I'm a Hindu in America is shouted down. Okay, and there's a cancel culture against Hindus. There was recently a Yoga Day declaration was actually cancelled. The proclamation was cancelled in California because they found out that there were Hindu organizations behind it. Next slide. Okay, this is what is happening to our mandirs. Next slide. And Gandhiji statues. So now that there is a movement to beat down Hindus even further. And that is happening in California. It already happened in Seattle, and now in California, there's a move to bring this bill called SB 403. A lot of people in this room probably don't know about it. It is a bill that says the caste should be a protected class, which means that it becomes really easy to bring a lawsuit on the basis of caste against anyone. Now they are saying that it applies to everyone, caste is in Christianity, in Islam, but the minute it is approved, The minute it's approved, they're going to come back and say, well, we don't have caste, look at our scriptures, we don't have either. We have Jati and Varna, and we'll go into it at some other time. Maybe. So, but let me just go through a couple some of these things that are happening. How did we get there? Let's go to the next slide. This is the allegation against BAPS. 140 federal agents descended on BAPS and they tried to, accuse BAPS of caste discrimination. Next slide. This is Hindu festivals. They're calling Hindu festivals casteist. Diwali, Holi, victory of good against evil is now casteism. Next slide. This is about yoga, Hindu practices under attack. Yoga. Next slide. And I'll make this available as slides, so anyone who wants it, I should make an announcement. I should have brought this on the stage. I'll bring it during the Q&A. I have a special toolkit just for mandirs, which has a lot of this content, and then rest of it is on our website. We also have some posters for free for mandirs. We'll give them out to you. These are the dharmic practices. Wellness, meditation. It has been labeled as Brahminical. Okay, next slide. All the Hindus are casteist, are also racist. So this is a seminar, South Asians for Black Lives, Caste and Anti-Blackness. Next slide. This is how they portray racism even more in a very pictorial manner. Okay, and you can see that all the other religions, all the other forms of discrimination is somewhere else. The most racist of any ideology, any philosophy, any faith, any religion, any culture is Hindu, right at the top. Next slide. And we are called not just oppressors, but we are also called rapists. Okay. Next slide. And worse. Next slide. Remember, the richest minority in America, the most affluent, CEOs everywhere, right? And so they started with, in higher education, so that you cannot have your kids go to colleges of their choice, because after all, they're kids of the casteist and racist people, right? Next slide. And this is some more, and in the place of employment. Just because you have a CEO who is Indian does not mean anything. Next slide. And on not just technology CEOs, but also the technology platforms are racist, are casteist. Next slide. And what is the goal here? The goal is direct attack on Hindu ideologies. This is from the website of people who are promoting SB 403. They say how to spot a casteist. Someone who says namaskar is a casteist. Next slide. Someone who recites, so you can relate to this, right? Someone who does Kathak dances or Bharatanatyam dances and recites the Sanskrit sloka. Sanskrit slokas are played in the background, or classical music is played in the background. You're a casteist. Next slide. Okay, if you're a vegetarian, you're casteist because you didn't serve non-vegetarian food during your Diwali festival, or somebody brought the non-vegetarian food and people didn't eat it. Well, because those people are casteist. Next slide. These are direct quotes from their website of people who are promoting this. Your kid is doing good in math competition. Well, math competition is casteist. No, I cannot make this stuff up. I thought I was pretty creative, but I mean, come on. I cannot even dream of this. Next slide. So if you say that I'm going to go to an Indian store and not a Pakistani store, you're a casteist. Next slide. You would think that they are now trying to, and they did a conference a couple of years ago called Dismantling Global Hindutva. And we said, at the time we said that Hindutva is the essence of Hindu Dharma. They're trying to dismantle Hindu Dharma. And a lot of people were skeptics. But here is what an Indian politician who is in tune with these people and hangs around with these people said. He now says that really it is not just Hindutva, it is not Hindu Dharma, but entire Sanatana Dharma. Okay, next slide, and I'll be done in less than 30 seconds. So we have been doing a lot of activities. I have a toolkit, I'll give it to you, next slide. And VHPA is an ecosystem. There are several initiatives. All of these are working together. Whether it's AHAD, which is our anti-defamation, Hindu Dvesha, which is our Hindu phobia initiative with a lot of really good articles and other material, intellectual material, HMEC, this forum, Hindu Business Network, where we have AHOA, Ashoa, all of them with us. So it's an entire ecosystem. Next slide. Anyone knows the answer? Wait. Oh, we got a little too fast. Wait. No, it is not the BAPS. So anyone wants to take a stab at what it was? And everyone found out after the slide came, but before that. All right, so I want to show you. I don't think anyone gave the answer, right? All right, I saved my $5. This is the Vedanta Society Temple in Northern California, in San Francisco, founded in 1900 by Swami Vivekananda Ramakrishna Order. The first universal Hindu temple in the West, built in 1905. Still there. Famous. Why is it famous? All right, go to the next slide. Bomb slays and wrecks Hindu temple. When did that happen? 1906. But I mean, there are other things. There are a lot of nuggets in here. You can see that the explosion in midst of women occultists. So they called Hindus occultists at the time. So Hindu phobia can relate to it. But the reason it was, why did the bombing happen? So next slide. The year prior to the temple, so there was a disgruntled youth. I think 14 at that time were not considered youth. This is in 1900s, pretty grown up at 14. This person was disgruntled, had some mental issues, went to the temple, threw a bomb, destroyed the mandir, and also the priest, the Swamiji is there, Tigunatitha, he was seriously injured and he died, they passed away 2 weeks later. And then they found out that the issue, the youth, mental health issues. I'm not going to talk about, but I want to say one thing that HMEC must do, all the mandirs must do, is also become resource centers for the community. And that's my talk for tomorrow. This is just a preview into that. But I just want to show you that there's a lot, just because you're the richest minority doesn't mean anything. There's a lot more work that we need to do for awareness and for protection of our dharma and people who follow our dharma in America.
Thank you, Ajayji, for that eye-opening presentation. Most of the mandirs don't realize what's out there in the political or other arenas and how it would impact the day-to-day workings of the temple. So bringing it to this forum, we really sincerely thank you. And as he mentioned, that there are posters which are very welcoming and which kind of tells about Hindu Dharma. We are open to all, and so alleviates all this caste and Varna conversation altogether. So please do check out the posters outside in the lobby area. The next speaker here we have is Satish Sharmaji, who is going to talk about social issues and impacts on mandirs. He's a TEDx speaker and a guest speaker at philosophy and yoga events at British colleges and universities, and a keynote speaker on dharmic issues and parliamentary debates and events. He represents the Hindu community at national events such as Remembrance Day and has made numerous appearances presenting the dharmic view on the BBC and the other channels. So a big round of applause just for that sentence. Also a practitioner and teacher of Jnana Yoga, the yoga of mental purification balance. Satishji recently was awarded the title of Dharma Samrakshaka, custodian of Dharma, and authorized to speak on the 6th darshans of Indian philosophy by the Council of Hindu Swamis and Saints in Rishikesh. He was the General Secretary of the National Council of Hindu Temples, UK for 7 years. If you do a Google search, he is very popular figure on the YouTube, leading many of the panel discussions like this. So welcome, Satish. Thank you.
Jai Shri Ram. I think I've probably had most of my 7 minutes used up in that introduction. We're going to have to do something about that in future. धर्म की अधर्म का प्राणियों में विश्व का अधर्म का नाश कौन करेगा? Wonderful. So I'm going to talk on a global perspective. I'm very fortunate, as you probably gathered from my accent, I'm from the United Kingdom, where I've been working with dharmic institutions and Sanatani institutions for a long period of time. I've been blessed to be supported by a number of our very staunch community members to try and do two things. One is to try and help our next generation really connect with what their heritage is and to empower them to bring that heritage into reality. The second thing is to try and get an understanding of some of the issues which are now appearing in front of us and to be able to see to the heart of them and to then find solutions. We have had a number of people say, Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Satya is at the heart of our tradition, and yet we are not, shall we say, established enough in Satya. And I'd like to talk about that for a few moments. As a Sanatani community, we are here on land which was in 1658 colonized by violence, by religious violence. The American Constitution, as a recent conversation with my dear friend and Guru Bhai, shall I say, Jeffrey Armstrong ji, who's in the audience, said, it was revealed to me that the American Constitution was based upon the constitution of the Iroquois families, their confederation, and we're on their land. Much of that constitution is still in place. Some of the important points were obliterated. But in 50 years after the settlers arrived here, the number of residents, indigenous people of this nation started to diminish. In 200 years, they were rendered impotent. We are in a society which is an adversarial society. The satya of our existence is that we are in an adversarial society. You will have seen some of the pictures between this time last year when your conference was held and this time this year. Can I ask, do each of us have a slight seed of concern in our hearts? A fear that something is happening and yet nothing seems to be done to challenge this. This fear is why we're here, and that's what our contribution should be. We're a darshan-based society. We're not a belief-based society. We believe into looking at the satya, into the depths of what it is that needs to be done. We are also the one society which is, I presume we have lots of doctors here. We're the one society. We are the stem cells of the human family. Our culture, our sanskar, our dharmic contribution is that wherever we go, we fill in the gaps. We become what that society needs to prosper and to profit and to become a successful society. We create teachers when education is needed. We create doctors when health is needed. We have entrepreneurs who we create when a society needs to have artha and wealth and comfort and safety. But we also create what's necessary to restore balance. We also create what's necessary to challenge adharma. And this is the next stage. We are in societies which are dominated by people who, if I can turn to the Bhagavad Gita for guidance, there is a chapter 16. It's frightening, isn't it? These youngsters have so much power. They stand there and say 3 minutes, and all of a sudden a ripple of fear passes through you. With the permission of the audience and following Dr. Vednandaji's wonderful example, I am going to appeal to democratic authority if I need to, just to have a couple more moments. Chapter 16. What is the description of a Puran, Sampuran Hindu, a complete Hindu? Do we know what it is? They live free from fear. They persevere and stand in the discernment of jnana. Jnana. They have control over their bodily senses. They speak truth. Carefully, I'm working on that one. They are endowed with vigor, vitality, and a steady and healthy internal fire. Everybody, have a look at ourselves. Are we endowed with that vigor? Remember, we are the descendants and inheritors of the nation we called Aryabhat. Nobility. When we look at ourselves in the mirror, are we embodying nobility? Are we giving nobility to these youngsters so that they can stand and walk into any room with the confidence that they stand on the shoulders of the greatest civilization humanity has ever known? Are we able to walk into a room that are inflicting a society and find resolutions confidently? Isn't that what nobility is? When you walk into a room, do you stand with a straight spine, confident and strong, knowing that because you are Atma, that there is nothing for you to be fearful of? Is that a realization that permeates our existence? Satya and Darshan requires also to understand what the opposite of the Deva identity is. Fraudulent, hypocritical cheaters, arrogant, self-serving and insolent, conceited, haughty and hostile, angry, wrathful and vengeful, vile, harsh and malicious. They lack disregard and are opposed to knowledge of the laws of nature. Would you say that that is a nature, an attitude, a personality which is permeating the nation in which you are established at this moment in time? The mandir is more than just a place of ritual worship. It's the place, traditionally, which was the pulsating heart of all of the four aspects of power that a society needs to survive. We were diminished to think of a mandir as a place of ritual worship, and we need to reverse that diminished understanding of what a mandir is. We also need to recognize that we are working in a framework which is inimical to us becoming 2 minutes more. Has anybody seen Anand Ranganathanji on TV? He said, can I just have 30 seconds more, please? But it's imperative for a mandir to become what it should be. It used to be the place where people who had, shall we say, been blessed with assets and wealth beyond their capacities would pour them into the mandir. So the mandir, populated and guided by the wisest of our people, could decide how to use those assets. The mandir has to become more than just a place of ritual worship. And that journey is actually the same journey that each of us embarks on as a Sanatani. You know, we go through Kam, we go through Arth, and then we struggle to find Dharma, harmony, and then we attain moksha. The mandirs also need to take that journey. And every mandir committee executive member, and speaking as somebody who served for 7 years with over 300 temples, I have an understanding of what happens in mandirs. In Yoga Bhyas, we teach the yamas and the niyamas first, so that a person has sanskar. And the reason is that before they then are taught pranayama, and before they are taught asana, which creates pran shakti, the seeds of ahamkar have been obliterated. In our mandirs, we have a gathering of pran shakti. And what it does is that the best person who goes into a mandir with seva bhavana, if that person hasn't done some sadhana, hasn't got a commitment to the yamas and the niyamas, then the pran shakti that gathers in mandirs causes all of those seeds to flourish. And the gentlest, I have seen the gentlest, nicest person become a tyrant and a dictator, to become attached to the idea that they have created the mandir, when merely they're a transient person engaged in sadhana on a journey through. We have to challenge these issues and these tendencies within us to become Arya. We have to do that. And what does an Arya society look like? If I can quote Sri Aurobindoji, brilliant Gita, by the way. Do check it out, it's outside there. I didn't write it, but it's well worth having a look, especially if you're in the English medium. Sri Aurobindoji described the Sanatani community as being the following community. The spirit of ancient India was aristocratic, its thought and life molded in the caste of a high and proud nobility, an extreme and lofty strenuousness, the very best in thought, the very best in action, the very best in character, the very best in literature and art, the very best in religion, and all the world well lost if only this very best might be attained. Such was the spirit of ancient India, the teacher who devoted himself to poverty and crushed down every desire in the pursuit of knowledge and self-discipline. The Kshatriya who, hurling his life joyously into the shock of courageous battle to protect Dharma and Samaj, held life, wife, children, possessions, ease, and happiness as mere dust. The Vaishya, the business person, the merchant, the creator of wealth, who, toiling all of his life to amass riches, poured them out as soon as they were amassed in service of Sanatana Dharma and the Samaj. The artisan, the craftsman, who gave himself up loyally to humble service. That's the manner in which a Sanatani society functions. That's the manner in which the Mandir has to guide us to become capable, both to give but to defend also. And the responsibility of making that happen rests with the executive committee members of our Mandirs here. If I can turn in conclusion just to a brief point about the global scenario. What you're feeling here is exactly being felt by Hindus all over the world. I'm blessed to be able to spend time in Bharat and also in the United Kingdom and in Europe. But you have a unique position in the diaspora. I spent some time in San Francisco addressing this caste issue, and I looked at it from the point of view of a global family. Some family members have wealth, some family members have numbers, some family members have knowledge. Here in the United States of America, the diaspora is unique. You have, per capita, the greatest degree of assets. You have, per capita, the highest level of education. This country has allowed you to amass and accumulate that. So your responsibility to participate in the renaissance of a Sanatani global family, I would suggest, is a little bit higher. I would ask that you reflect upon your role in a global sense now and participate in dealing with these threats that challenge us, such as this caste issue. We are in a situation where we have to make the difference now. One last thought. The human family is under threat as a family and as a species like it has never been before. And the only community which has the capacity to become whole is the community which has received the blessings from our Sanatani ancestors to heal almost a semi-dead person can be brought back to full health and well-being by the Vidya that we have. We have that responsibility to do that, and we are going to have to do it in an adversarial environment. Please recognize that the Kshatriya Tattva is a vital part of our tradition. The Kshatriya Tattva we have neglected, but our Shastras, the most important ones, the most relevant ones, were given on a battlefield. And they were given to resurrect the Kshatriya Tattva inside each and every one of us. When you do the Hanuman Chalisa, how many of you say, Ki Jai Nath Hirdaya Madera? And yet when I look and see you walking around, I don't see that Nath entity inside of you. We need to resurrect that. When you do the Hanuman Chalisa, do it with strong muscles as though you stamped your foot and the whole earth would shake. Unless that's there in an adversarial environment, we will not be able to push back Asat, Adharma, and Hinsa. So please, each and every person, connect with the Kshatriya Tattva inside of you. Give our generation a group of idols, role models, people who they can aspire to and say, I want to be like that person. No more diminutive Namaskarji. Please tolerate our existence. Right? That doesn't happen anymore. Thank you. Please also finally recognize that Hindus have a right to rule and govern. Edmund Burke said, if you don't engage in the principles of rulership and governance, you deserve to be ruled by idiots. And I think our adherence to being Sevadars for such a long period of time has created a situation where perhaps Edmund Burke was right. So please educate our children not just to serve, but also to rule and govern. It's time. Thank you very much. And to the timekeepers, my apologies, but it was just 30 seconds.
Thank you, Satishji, for reminding us all that we are indeed the stem cells of the society. The Sanatana Dharma is the stem cell of the society, and thank you for that wonderful talk. Next, I have Anita Gupta ji. Dr. Anita Gupta is a trained physician, completed her medical degree in India and her master's in public health and business administration from Indiana University. She is a member of the board of trustees at the Hindu Temple of Central Indiana. She's very humble. She's like, you don't need to say anything because she is a regular at the HMEC. She is one of the pillars of the HMEC program coordination team. So a warm welcome to Anita Gupta ji. Thank you.
Namaste everyone. So we have heard about the grants in the section before by Premji. So I'm just going to reiterate, I'm just a messenger here for the non-profit security grant program. Next slide. At our temple, this grant is being run by a team of 4 members who have taken the entire responsibility. So I'm just going to present what they have. So when you are looking at the eligibility criteria for this grant, it must meet the description under the section of 5013C for the IRS code and be exempt from tax under section 501A. You must be a non-profit, which we are the Hindu Temple. Be able to demonstrate that this will help the organization, which is at a high risk for terrorist attack, should have a data universal numbering system, which is the DUNS number. And it is being issued by the US Department of Homeland Security, the Federal Emergency Management, FEMA, and the Grant Program Director. So next slide. So looking at the program overview, again, we know it is one of the 3 grant programs by the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA. It supports to strengthen the national preparedness and resilience. And it is supporting the goals of building a culture of preparedness and readying for the nation for catastrophic disasters. So 250 million, they were available in 2022. They are still available now. Going to the next slide. So the objectives, again, to reiterate, it is for physical security enhancement and other security-related activities for our nonprofit organizations. The priorities are that they have to enhance the protection of soft targets and crowded places. Second-tier priorities that help the recipients implement a comprehensive approach to the securing communities is you have to have effective planning, training and awareness campaigns, and regular exercises. Next slide. So the funding that comes through, some of the categories that we can use is construction, getting equipment, doing regular exercises, management and administration, again, organization, any operational activities that require, any planning that needs to be done, and any training that needs to be done. So these are the categories that we can use for securing the grant. Coming to the next slide. So some of the information about the federal award information. So the maximum award is 150,000. This we received, the Hindu Temple of Central Indiana received in 2022. We are in the 3rd year of the grant. So every year we are getting 150,000. So the deadline for this application process is, the application start date is February of a calendar year. So for next year, February of 2024. The deadline for submission becomes April of that calendar year. And the anticipated funding selection date, you will get a notification, is no later than July 1st of that calendar year. And your anticipated award date will be no later than September 30th of that calendar year. Next slide. Your periods of performance are 36 months. So you have 36 months to report to the awarding agency. And extensions for that period of performance are allowed. Your projected period of performance start date is September. So that's when they start giving you the information about the awarding. That's the start of the performance date. And your end date will be the August of the following calendar year. And when you select the funding instrument type, it will be a grant. Next slide. So the application, let's go over the application and submission information. So when you apply, you have to do it under non-profit organization applicant information. So you will be required to put your name of the organization, what organization type you are, what is your membership, and the community that is served. All of that information has to be put in. Whether you are 501(c)(3) exempt, your unique identity, ID number in the SANS or SUB, plus your NSGP federal funding request will be there. Then in your background information, you are going to put the value of the site of your mandir, of the building, as a significant institution within the community. That could be a possible target. You have to put your risks. What risks do you anticipate in your organization? What are the threats? What are your vulnerabilities? And what are the potential consequences of if there is an attack? Next slide. The fourth point is target hardening. So you have to describe. So that is why we have a team of people who actually brainstorm and put this together. Describe each proposed activity or investment and your identified threat that it will address and the associated cost that you anticipate for that activity or investment. You also have to put a milestone. As with any other grant, you have to put milestones there that are associated with your key activities. That will, because that's how you have to report. And that will be in your period of performance. You do have to put a project management there, and then impact. So you have to put measurable outputs and outcomes that will indicate that this investment that you are asking for, this money that you are asking for, is successful at the end of your period of performance. So when you write this grant, you have to be very careful how you write it and how you implement it. Next slide. So a couple of examples that we have been using, and that is the equipment that we have proposed. So like remote gate operators. So our temple asked for that, and we are using it. CCTV parking lot cameras, your gates, your interior and exterior buildings, anything CCTV camera related. Another thing is call boxes in your perimeter, in your mandir perimeters, or like with any school systems where they have call boxes around there, or colleges. Any panic alarms that you can request for. PA systems, those are also that you can request under the grant. Any exterior lighting. So these are just the equipment that we are currently proposed and that we are implementing it. We are putting it together. Next slide. So when all the criteria that you are putting as met, your organization will get a letter from the State Department of Homeland Security. So just an example. So this was in 2022. So if you say your date of award was September, you will get the your recipient name. You will get a contact information. There will be one contact person for that temple, for your temple. You will have a dance number there, and then you will get a final grant amount. So you may get 150,000. You will get up to 150,000. It could be less or it could be more. And they will give you a period of performance where you have to report. Next slide, and this is the last one. That's just the resources and references. So as I said, I'm just a messenger here from the entire team. But if you have any questions, we are always there to help, and we will provide you the information and contact information about the teams. We have several other temples that have implemented it, and everyone would be happy to answer questions. There from the last HMSC, we also had several Zoom calls for other temples to take advantage of this grant. Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you, Anisa ji, for that wonderful session on writing the grants. And just as a reminder, HMEC had a session, a Zoom session for all the Mandir executives in the past, especially to guide them to write this this particular grant. And in the future also, we can schedule one, even if it is 2-3 temples at a time. We will be able to help them. More the merrier, but we are there to help. The HMEC team is there to help. We do have 10 minutes of time. Questions? And I want some volunteers help to pass the mic around. Thank you, Tejanji. And direct questions?
Questions only, please. No comments, please. Yes, Murli.
Namaste. So my question is, how can we as Indians differentiate between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation in order to avoid accusations of cancel culture?
So it's really an interesting question, right? Because the strength of Hindu Dharma is the gift that Hindu Dharma gives to the world. So we are very open in sharing our Dharma, our culture. We want to share Ayurveda, we want to share yoga, we want to share meditation, we want to share the concept that Ekam Sata Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, the truth is one, but everyone sees it, all the sages and saints have seen it different ways. We want to share the fact that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, entire universe is one family. This is inherent strength of Hindu Dharma that we want to just give as a gift to Hindu Dharma. What appropriation does is takes the gift away and it corrupts it and then casts it in a light that is not palatable to anyone. And so what we have to do is figure out the right context in which the things are used. So a deity in a mandir, you worship, right? A deity on a slipper or a toilet seat does not have the same purpose. So a deity on a toilet seat is neither appropriation nor appreciation. It's basically an insult. Now, it can happen because someone didn't understand the nuances of Dharma, because we actually went to those people who designed that and they had no idea. They thought they were doing something great. They were appreciating, because there was a company called Sitting Pretty. And those people thought that they were actually appreciating Hindu Dharma. So we have to educate them. So the onus is on us a lot of times. For people who don't have the malintentions, onus is on us to actually explain this. But people who have ill intention, like the appropriation of Diwali and swastika and all that you saw, there we have to stand firm and protect our Dharma so that the gift that Hindu Dharma has given sustains for many, many generations to come. It doesn't end with our generation.
Thank you, Ajay. Our tradition is beautiful in that it acknowledges multiple viewpoints. And now that the position of the Devas has been so well represented, I'm going to take the role of the Dana and offer a counter understanding as well. We have a concept of Adhikar, and Adhikar has always been at the heart of our tradition. And we do not give children guns because they cannot deal with it. Our tradition has always said, do not empower burglars with the capacity to meditate because they become really good burglars. We abandon this in what I would like to call a potential affliction of Sattvic Ahamkar. Dr. Amendra Ratnaji is here, and he was the one who introduced me to this term Sattvic Ahamkar. And it's the Ahamkar which says to a person, I am so good, I am so wonderful, that I can be so magnanimous and enjoy bathing in the light of appreciation and abandon the principle of Adhikar. We also need to recognize that Adhikar is important. I'd like to introduce an idea that I'm working on, and I'll declare it here first. We have to understand and perhaps demand the concept of a conflict of religious interest. In the same way that we have a conflict of financial interest, a conflict of religious interest would say that if you belong to an ideology or a group which is hostile to us, then you should recuse yourself from any decision which involves our well-being. Similarly, if you belong to an ideology which is inimical to our tradition, our deities, our images, our symbols, and everything else, then you do not have a right to assume ownership of those and do anything with them at all without us granting you the adhikar to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have one question, but I think we'll take it offline from to Premji. It was any grants for developing or getting land for crematorium? Very good question, and we will get the answer for this.
Thank you. I'm Kamal Jamal from Columbus, the president of Global Goodness Youth Organization. We are the people who became a refugee because of Hinduism since 1990 from Bhutan. And we came to the Nepal as a refugee. We did gain a spiritual breath in Nepal as a refugee in refugee camp. And now we are in America, we have a couple of temples. And recently GBH purchased 150 acres of land in Ohio and established Om Center Tibet to feel better, to protect our religion, dharma, to do our seva. But by seeing the Hindu phobia, like anti-society is increasing in America, how we can be protected from this kind of threat and working together in collaboration at large in the society, in Indian society. Thank you.
So I'm going to say something that is one of my pet peeves, right? So we're going to say that, we have to start practicing Hindu instead of Indian. And it's a much larger community. It's over 10% of American population is Hindu. Only significantly less, maybe 2%, 3% population is Indian. So we have to expand our own vision of what Hindu is, because there's strength in numbers. Yeah. If you count all the people who follow dharmic faith, that number is over 30 million. It's not 5 million, it's not 4 million. No. So first, we are much bigger in number. So when you want to counter Hindu phobia, A, education, B, counter people who have malicious intention, as I said earlier, and which Satish Sharma has also said. So all of these things, right? So I don't repeat the same answer, but basically both strength in numbers and education.
We have time for one last question. Tejalji, can you decide? Yes. And then I think then after that, Sanjay Kaulji, and then that would be the last one. Thank you.
Hari Om. We are all calling Diwali festival. So Diwali is a right word. Is there any meaning? Or Deepavali, that's what we call. But Diwali is the right word to call, or is there any meaning for that? For all of us.
In Sanskrit, the right word is Deepavali, not Diwali. The apocryphal is yes. Just like real word is Deepavali. The apocryphal came Diwali.
Okay. Maybe we can take that off session.
Can we move on to next last question from Sanjayji?
I think he has a hand up. He was the first to say, so we should go after that.
Yeah, Sanjayji and then Ajayji and then.
Hello, namaskar, and thank you to Anita ji and Prem ji for sharing how to get grants. My question is actually to both of you. Like I am part of VHPA, and VHPA is a nationally recognized non-profit and has chapters of. So would it be conducive for us to apply for a grant if we have Om Center in Boston? Should we have a separate 501c3, or should we be applying under the national non-profit number that VHPA has? Because if each chapter applies for the grant, would it be good that there are many applications from one institution, or each institution should have its own 501c3 number?
Premji is in the audience. Premji is going to respond. He's in the audience.
Yeah, definitely VHPA can apply for those grants, and there are grants at the national level, and you also can, if they are very local level, then you can apply from chapter.
But does the chapter have its own 501c3 or national number can work?
National number. As one organization. Same like we got BBFC grant, but one save organization. But we also got national grants, again, same organization.
Thank you.
So question for both Satish ji and Ajay ji. Most of the Hindus, majority of the Hindus in the US, they seem to be more concerned and aware of issues in Bharat, both political as well as cricket match and celebrity issues. There are issues that are actually happening here. So what can mandirs and non-profit organizations do to educate Hindus about issues right here at home? Home meaning American home, than be so much concerned about faraway issues that we can't do much about.
So we have to learn from what our opponents are doing. They are not targeting the first generation.
except in employment and things like that. They're not really, that's not the target. They're not targeting second generation because they have, second generation has connections to their parents and grandparents. They are targeting the third generation. So my message to all the people in this audience and to very open is, it's not the second generation that is at the risk. It is the third and fourth and fifth generation that is at risk. In America, it takes 3 generations to lose the cultural context, right? Anyway, it takes 3 generations. Hindus have actually an opportunity to kind of hang on to that. And the more we, and look, it's kind of natural, right? I've grown up in India. I've seen poverty firsthand. I worked in Dharavi when I was in Vidyapit Prishad. And if someone says, okay, give $20 and I'll save a life of a child, support a child program that VHP has, Seva has, similar program, I'm going to pay $25 a month because I know the impact it's going to make. But you have to remember there are 1.4 billion people in India. India is a growing economy. People are doing well in India. They don't need money from America. They really need to invest. If this generation, our generation, my generation, does not invest in America, the mandirs will not sustain. There will be nobody going. How many churches are now being sold? Right? So the role, it's part of tomorrow's talk, so I don't want to preempt my talk, but look, if mandirs do not remain relevant and do not become the center of community, not just spiritual center for Hindus, but center for the entire local community and stay relevant, their own kids, the surrounding area, all of them will stop, in 2 generations, nobody will go there. It will be up for sale, just like churches are. So we have to change the mindset by saying that, look, do it not for yourself. Don't do it for your kids. Do it for your grandkids and great grandkids. That is the only way this, we are going to sustain dharma in America.
Thank you, Aditi. Thank you, Arvindji. It's an excellent question. There is only one Kurukshetra now. It's global. There is a global Kurukshetra. And when you have such a large battlefield, you must recognize that although there are problems in that corner, the only people who can do the fight in your corner are you. And so bearing in mind the fact that there is a global Kurukshetra, the obligation to act locally is greater than ever before. If you also understand that it's a global Kurukshetra, there are advantages. In the United Kingdom, in Leicester, the Hindu community was targeted and attacked specifically because they were Hindus in that particular area. A narrative was established by the media, indeed by the local authority, the politicians, and even the police, that Hindus were attacking Muslims. Now, this narrative was very strong. Myself and a small team, we went to Leicester and established that Hindus were not attacking Muslims. And so we held a protest outside the BBC. And the reason I mention this is that by holding that protest outside of the BBC, what we managed to do was to get the whole of the Bharatiya network of mainstream media, the right wing portals as they call themselves, to amplify the protest that we were engaged in. So all of a sudden, the whole ecosystem in Bharat was retweeting, recirculating that Hindus have been attacked in Leicester, and it's not the other way around. Within a 24-hour period, we had over 200,000 active participants from Bharat supporting our campaign in Leicester. And so what's happening in Bharat is really important. What's happening here is really important, but most important of all is that we don't fall into this frog in a well mentality. Right? We recognize that this caste issue in San Francisco happened in 2013 to 2016 in the United Kingdom. Exactly the same strategy. And it's also being deployed against Hindus in Bharat as well. So act locally, be connected globally, and find resources and share resources with the global diaspora. The technology exists to do this. We need to do this as soon as possible. And to help that happen, please follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is the British Hindu. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the SB 403 booklet that was developed by by Ajay Bhai and team Hindu Pact, which is also an initiative of VHPA. I would like to have one copy distributed per Monday. Please read it. It's also available on the website. While we go from here out of this room for the breakout session, I'll stand at the door and I'll hand it out. And Ajay Bhai also has some posters prepared, Hindu Pact posters, which are available free. You can have it printed and use it for your Mondays.
So there are HMEC posters with impact, but they are the posters where we are promoting equality and we are welcoming everyone. So this is the positive reinforcement part that we as Mandirs can actually show the community that we are welcoming everyone. So there's a set of 4 posters, and there are 4 other posters which are more about Hindu Dharma and philosophy. So we have a total of 8 posters. I have the equality posters. I have them printed here. One says, "We are all created equal. Our qualities and skills determine our varna and our profession and not birth." The second one says, "Aham Brahmasmi." We see divinity in all, equality beyond appearance and ancestry, equality of mind, body, and soul. Okay? The third poster says, "This temple," just simply says, "This temple welcomes all. The temple is open to all, regardless of race, ethnicity, nationality, ancestry, profession, marital status, gender, or sexual orientation." This is, the standard government notices that you're required to put. It's along the same lines, but it's more, centered on Hindu Dharma. And the last one is, "Divinity comes in all skin colors. Diversity is our core value." Okay? So these posters, we can give it to you in PDF form, or we can give you as a regular print, not the foam board, because HMEC is not yet rich. But with some donations, we can do it. HMEC also has a Twitter. Is it HMEC _VHPA?
HMEC also has a Facebook page, so I would request all of you to follow the HMEC Facebook page as well.
There is a sign-up sheet outside if you want to get the posters, either PDF or paper, nice glossy printed.
What the poster cost?
Huh?
What is the cost of the poster?
Free.
No, I'm not for that.
The title of the poster.
If you want to make it.
I just got this printed from FedEx office. Each one cost me $63 minus 20% off. So that was my cost for printing one. So each one. Something like that, yeah. Such a thing, yeah, 240.
So we need to, so we are way behind schedule. So we want to wrap up this session. Want to let you know that we are going to start our breakout session. We are very time crunched. 1 o'clock, we are supposed to leave here, these premises, to go to the the buses will be running. So we have to leave here to go to the Baptist Mandir, to Akshardham. So before that, we have our breakout session. I just want to announce the sessions and the rooms. So the breakout session 4.1, it is in your booklet, or A, which is Effective Fundraising Financial Stability Fund. That is in room Hemrock. All the rooms, there are 3 rooms that if you go past the elevators, go straight, they will be at the very end of the hallway. So the first room is Hemrock for breakout session A. Breakout session B, which is Priest Education for American Hindus, will be held in this room right here. Then breakout session 3C, which is Unity and Collaboration across Mandirs, regional and national, that will be held in room Cedar. All the rooms are labeled there with the breakout session information. And then the last session, which is breakout session D, which is Seeking and Engaging Volunteers, that is in room Maple. So 3 sessions to be held all the way down here, and 1 session B will be held over here. The sessions are supposed to end around 12:15. Lunch will be served from 12:15 to 12:45, and we expect everyone to be here in the lobby by 1 o'clock. Namaskar.